Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to American Freeman on the Freeman Radio Network. My name is Don. I'm joined as always by Evstratios. Hopefully a little bit later we'll be talking to Maggot from England and going over a number of different things. I'm assuming and presuming that we are currently live on air right now, and that's a wonderful thing. We're glad to have you with us today. For more information, check out thinkfree.ca or worldfreemansociety.org. Evstratios, do we have anyone else with us at the moment? Are we currently online or are we currently live? Excellent. Well, that makes me exceptionally happy to know that is the case. We left off yesterday afternoon talking about a number of different things that were anti-NWO, and we hope to continue with those thoughts and everything today. We definitely want to hear from you. We want you to contact us. Contact us at Keep Truth Free through Skype. I did want to just go ahead right in and jump onto the topic for today. One of the things that I wanted to mention and discuss was the MK Ultra programming and the control that's done on a vast array of human beings across the entire world, but most presumably because of things that have been done. And the reason I came across this and felt that it was important was because I was listening earlier today to Radio Freeman America on or the Freeman Radio Network, a bit by William Cooper that came out in 1994 that was talking about the whole programming aspects. My experience with him has been limited to a certain extent, and I would appreciate knowing far more. I know, Evstratios, you have researched quite an awful lot on this subject, and I have some questions that I want to ask you about it. But I'd love it if you would take the opportunity at this point to try to explain a little bit about how MK Ultra or mind control experience has been used, and different instances in which people in the last 30 or 40 years have shared their stories or exposed their own programming underneath it.
That last 6-part bit with William Cooper was really amazing. I've done a lot of research in that area. Kathy O'Brien wrote an amazing book, Transformation of America. There's several different ways all this stuff happens. There's also neuro-linguistic programming with Richard Bandler, which is another. I mean, all of it's just pure evil. They call NLP the friendly mind control. This Kathy O'Brien type is the unfriendly, and the CIA really enjoys giving you acid without telling you. That's great. And then there's the major media, which continues to lie to us about every major topic. It goes on and on and on. There's that Delgado who put brain things in the bowl, and it could make the bowl turn left. I don't know. It just makes me sick.
Sure.
Let me pull on Maggot. Maggot does all kinds of things about mind control. I
Excellent.
Online.
Fantastic. Just a quick thing for you people out there. My name is Don. The gentleman that was just speaking is Evstratios. We are trying to make sure that we connect to Maggot, our voice from the other side of the pond. Maggot, are you with us?
Yep.
Maggot, great to have you with us. We're discussing today MK Ultra, mind control programming, and everything else. Evstratios mentioned that you've done quite a bit of research, or may have quite a bit of...
Dropped off.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll get
We'll be
him
right
back
back.
here in just a moment.
It's England, you know. If you think it's hard to upload here, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll have him back here in just a quick moment. I wanted to ask you real quick.
It's horrific. The The worst of it is the Kathy O'Brien type, which is trauma-based mind control. Where in her case, they were cutting off the hands of homeless people in Nashville to repeatedly traumatize her, and they did it.
Watch this while it was happening.
What?
Forcing her to watch this.
Yeah, that's the key.
Was happening.
Yeah.
How old was she at the time?
I'm not sure. How they caught her into the program was her father was a worm digger, and was selling child porn with her, bestiality child porn with her and the dog through the U.S. mails. So the head of the Michigan Mafia shows up, and he's of course Gerald Ford, and says, hey, that's okay. Just here's some more instruction for you, because as you know, the U.S. government endorses these things. I'm gonna throw up now.
Well, definitely. Hold on a second. I need to grab my bucket.
Yeah, that's great. How wonderful.
Well, it's kind of...
That's Gerald Rudolph Ford, isn't it?
He was the only unelected president of the United States. Nobody elected him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it took over after the assassination of Kennedy.
Nixon. Nixon was not assassinated.
Oh, right. Nixon was kicked out, and he took over after Nixon. Right. Yeah. Kennedy.
His born first name is Leslie Lynch King Jr. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's his real name.
Yeah, that's his real name.
Gerald Ford's real name?
Yeah.
Gerald Rudolph Ford.
Leslie Lynch King.
Yeah.
Really, and that's fascinating to learn that, because I actually live in the state that he's supposed to be from, and actually graduated from high school in the city that he was supposed to have lived in, and driven past what is supposed to be his family house in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really born Gerald R. Ford. Well, we'll get back to that.
That's very shameful, isn't it?
Well, it definitely is, but that just lets you know how much it's been perpetuated as a sense of fallacy in Americanized culture. But go ahead, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Well, so anyway, the key is to traumatize somebody over and over again. And so you've seen the auto accident where people forget what happens just before and after the auto accident.
Sure.
These horrible bastards have figured out that if you repeatedly traumatize someone, they manage and operate this amnesia wall, so that all they have to do is snap their fingers, Rumpelstiltskin or something, and then they turn to somebody else. And then when they, at the end of it, they Rumpelstiltskin again, and now they're back to who they were. It's the Manchurian Candidate, but a million times worse.
Well, sure, and that's one of the things I was going to ask you is how it relates to the idea presented by the Manchurian Candidate.
That was the Chinese Communist method, and so they had symbols and things like that. The Americans had a slightly different method that they got when they brought over Nazi scientists in Project Paperclip through the Vatican route lines. The Nazi scientists were initially placed in NASA, and then placed all over the country in universities. A good way to get a grip on how the university placement thing worked. There was a Orson Welles movie called The Stranger.
I don't think I'm familiar with that. I haven't seen that.
I just want to mention it so people in the audience can look it up. That really gives you a look into how that placement worked.
Well, for me personally, I'm not familiar with it. Do you want to give me just a little bit of understanding on it?
You would find yourself going to some college or whatever, and you'd find this German professor there who couldn't tell you much about his background and lived in fear all the time in a way.
Okay.
It's just interesting.
So then what was the whole point of putting all of these Nazi...
well, the rationale there is, well, the Russians are going to get them. Well, why don't we hang them and kill them? They did human torture. They violated the Nuremberg Code. You would think that if we kill them because they did crimes against humanity, well, then the Russians won't get them either. That's my theory, but that wasn't there.
Fair enough.
Because we wanted this technology. You know.
Well, and my question then is, in a free and just society, right, exactly, and we can laugh about that as much as we want, but that's what's perpetrated through the education system. That's what's perpetrated through.
Yeah. Well, anyway, since we got all the NASA mind control scientists, well, it's perpetrated through the educational system, as you said, and we believe we went to the moon. Because, see, they told us we got a lot of rocket scientists from Germany, but we didn't. We got a lot of mind control scientists. We got like 1 or 2 rocket scientists. And we believe we went to the moon. See how that works? Rather, if we had as many rocket scientists as we had mind control scientists, we might have gotten to the moon, but we applied our scientists in other areas, so we believe we went. See the difference?
Sure. Let me ask you just real quick for a point of contention. Do you believe that we have gone into space? Do our current shuttles actually go into what's considered space?
I'm no great authority on this, but I think they went into low Earth orbit.
Okay.
They can repair satellites. I don't know.
Space station exists?
Space-ish? What?
The space station.
Yeah.
That exists?
Low Earth orbit.
Okay.
They can't get past the Van Allen belt. I think that's the point you're
Right.
trying to hit. Yeah, there's this belt around the Earth, according to astronomy or NASA theory or whatever. There's a belt around the Earth called the Van Allen radiation belt, and it's so highly charged with radioactive.
Well,
now,
come back to one point.
This mind control. They're really into it too. The Tavistock Institute is huge over there,
Right.
and they're way into mind control. And cutting him off every few seconds is part of it.
Yeah, they were allowed to get me. Okay.
I wouldn't doubt it whatsoever. It happens, and just to give you a coordination, here in the U.S., they change everything over from a digital to from an analog to a digital signal on television.
Yeah.
And, you can sit and watch it, and right when they get to important or pertinent parts of TV programs, it'll cut out. You'll have had perfect reception, and it will just suddenly cut out and then come back in just after any important information might have been shared. And it's the same thing that I think we're experiencing with Maggot, is that as soon as they recognize and sense that you're discovering or might have the possibility to think beyond what you're being told, they stop that information from being available to you.
I think with me, it's random. I don't know. They're that clued up about what you say. It's all improv. It's not like you've got notes in front of me. They can't possibly, unless you've got some sort of like amazing mind reader. You know, like one of the Swordlows is living in under my floorboards or something.
Stop him! He's finding his thinking.
Well, but you say that, but you never know, because when I first stumbled across the Freeman existence and came across thinkfree.ca, I accessed it, and for the first 24 hours, I had unlimited access to it, and then for the next week and a half, I couldn't access the website.
Well, you're also using Windows.
Anyone else that I shared that information with electronically over the web, say, hey, check out this website, no one else could check out that website. And it was like a week and a half before I had access to it.
See, Windows is designed to keep you down. So,
sure.
And the media is constantly has like touchy-feely kind of make you paranoid kind of shows all the time. So all they really have to do is 1 or 2 things to get you to flip out and come up with a larger answer than what is really happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not that bright. They'll cut you off randomly. The operator who's doing this to you doesn't have the brain capacity. I mean, they have a genius to monitor everybody. I mean, they don't.
Yeah.
They can't find enough people to do that.
I'm not bothered if I get cut off and start again.
And you'll find things that, if you were running it, you would want someone competent, whatever, to be the. They can't and don't care enough to do that. They're doing this stuff in a callous, sort of empty way. See what I mean? That's part of it, in a way, because they never managed to do it the way that would help, or the way that would help them. You know? We're dealing with the dumbest people in the world who believe that they're the smartest people in the world.
Yeah, I'm not bothered. It doesn't bother me at all if I get cut off. I don't think anything of it. I know it's all a little trick to pull you into it.
You can't analyze it as being. It's like have you ever seen Inspector Clouseau, the Pink Panther, and all that stuff? Where, or there are other examples where Dumb and Dumber, where you're being followed by idiots, and the people who are being followed analyze it as if they're being followed by super geniuses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sure.
It's like it's ridiculous. It's total nutcaseism at the end of the day, because it's like, oh, a fly tapped against my window. That means that the gods are angry at me. It's that sort of mentality.
Yeah, you've
like
analyzed it.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're smarter than that.
Sure.
But you could tell by the way the fly brushed its wings against the window. You could tell it was Thor. Thor was angry at me because I cursed him 3 years ago. That's like paganism, isn't it? That's like how pagans think. But it's the same sort of mentality brought it forwards. It's basically superstition, really. It's like, oh, you kind of just got disconnected because you had too many programs running, or because too much data going through the system at once. So it has to be because the evil agencies are out to get you, and they've been sitting around waiting to do this. And they couldn't have just made your computer explode. No, they have to do it by really subtle ways. Oh yes. I had to reset my hub today. Anyway, when I came back, my hub gone funny, so I had to reset it. So it's probably related to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
it never bothers me really.
The reason that we brought this up was because we had lost Maggot for just a quick second there, and we can get back to this topic. But we had originally been talking about mind control programming and everything else. And Maggot, I think you were starting into your understanding of it, or your experience, or the information that you've discovered about it when we lost you. I don't remember exactly where you were in it, but I would like to kind of redirect the conversation back to the whole mind programming understanding, and get your opinion and your insight on it.
That's a pretty sort of difficult question to answer. Yeah, it goes on all the time, and people go on about MK Ultras, if that's be all and end all, but there's plenty of other programs and all competing. And they're all sort of specialised science, and people seem to think it will come to the Nazis. I mean, the Nazis used it, but other people have used it as well, and it's been in use since ancient times. There's nothing new about mind control at all. It's a basic form of government the actual translation of government is mind control.
Really?
Yeah, if you change the word government, meant for mental, it's in mind, and then govern is a control. The word government means control mind.
Wow.
So yeah, government is synonymous with mind control.
I guess I'd never really thought about it that way before.
Yeah, it's backwards way of reading.
The army wants to break you down and rebuild you, and you're going to do what you're told. You're going to shoot on command. You're going to.
That's it. You got to destroy, erase, improve. To quote from an album title, but it's also true. Destroy means you got to the word destroy means expose. So you expose the weakness, then you erase it, erase the weak part. This is from their perspective, obviously, and then you replace the erasure parts with the improved parts. So you might have somebody like a subject who has problems. He gets too emotionally attached to dogs. and so you expose what you destroy him by exposing what he's weak to. You know, like what's his weak spot about dogs? Is it like what sort of dogs he's weak about? Is it the black-haired ones, the brown-haired ones, the blonde ones? Is it puppies he has a particular fondness for? Is it old dogs? Is it dogs with 3 legs? Is it dogs that are healthy, dogs that are sick? Angry dogs, snappy dogs, lazy dogs, sleepy dogs, and that sort of thing. You have to go through it all. And then you go to the erasing thing, which is usually a process of it's a contrast. So I'm not sure how they would do that exactly, but they usually use the contrasting thing to erase the part of the mind that you don't want, and then you reprogram it. So basically, yeah, you might start by really liking lazy dogs, and then the end result is you really hate lazy dogs. I mean, that's a nice example. I won't go into the sort of the usual sick details, but yeah, they'll just use use lots of video footage and aggressive dogs attacking lazy dogs. You can pretty much fill in the blanks on it. There's a lot of that happens though as well. There's a lot of suggestion. They don't have to do it step by step by step by step. They'll introduce you to something traumatic, and then they'll just leave you there for maybe an hour or so on drugs, and you'll be watching it on drugs, and then a lot of it's down to your imagination, because that's the part of the destruction process and the erasure. So once you've learned to dissociate from the dog as anything, you no longer associate yourself with it, you no longer have any emotions towards it, then you're at the middle phase, which is you're completed the erasure phase, and then you're ready for improvement, which is where they reprogram you.
Well, yeah,
Exactly it.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I want to ask you just real briefly again here, Maggot, the definition, the actual identity definition of destroy that you had mentioned earlier. You said it was to erase?
No.
Patterning.
Yeah, destroy is you expose them, basically. It's sort of like, I worked out that word definition. It's something to do with the Trojan horse, and it's like if you destroyed the Trojan horse and you see the soldiers inside the Trojan horse, because the Trojan horse was sent into Troy or whatever, and they thought it was a horse, lovely horse, and inside it was soldiers all out, with knives and stuff. So yeah, by destroying, it means to take off.
That's Troy.
That's Troy, yeah.
Right. So
down Troy.
Okay, so it's the destruction of the fallacy that sits in front of you. It's
you take off the shell.
Breakdown of the external construction.
That's it. The conditioning or whatever. The preconditioning you already have.
Right, to find out what actually exists underneath. Okay.
Yeah. To expose it. Yeah. So really destroy means expose.
Okay, and Stratios, you were starting to get into the whole deprogramming, deconstruction identity. Depatternizing aspect of it. Why don't you go ahead and pick that up and run with it as far as that goes? With
so I'm just saying that's what he exactly described, is what they call it, depatterning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the depatterning is between destroy and erase. Destroy is where you expose the person. It's basically because they feel like they're being destroyed, you sort of break them down, and they become like another threat, because obviously people don't always have an explanation why they like something, especially children and stuff.
Right. And
so you have to find out why exactly they like dogs, and why do they think it's so cute when they like it, or whatever. And obviously children can't really answer it, and so that's part of the destruction program, is finding out why they like it. That's psychological, and depatterning. And then, as I was saying earlier, erase is where you remove that, and improve is where you replace it with something else. But the erasure and improvement are sort of go hand in hand, because the erasure process, that is basically totally detaching a subject from the thing you want them to be detached from. Mm-hmm. So when they've been totally erased, they're totally mind washed or brainwashed, totally mind blank. So they're basically sort of like they're in sort of like a ready state for reprogramming.
In Clockwork Orange, they hit it by mistake. They would never have known that he enjoyed the violence and associated it with his favorite song, that Beethoven's Ninth.
Beethoven's Ninth, yeah, right.
Yeah.
If they hit a different combination, it wouldn't have worked quite as well.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But since they were playing that in the background while they were showing the violence to him on the screen, boy, that really struck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
it sounds daft, but they were trying to play the music in the background because it's supposed to raise the IQ and stuff.
Yeah.
And so their stupid logic, this is really twisted logic, but their logic was that by playing that, it would make him wise to the violence and see the futility in it and the nastiness in it. But all that did is excite him.
See, and they're such bastards. They present that as an accident.
Yeah, yeah.
When they try to present it, they don't quite tell you how it works in the media. You know.
In the movie?
That's what I
Or
mean. It's a wonderful book as well, but they present it to you as, well, we struck on it by accident. But see, these people in real life know how this stuff works.
Oh, they know exactly what they're doing.
And the only reason I ask that is because having read the book, it didn't come across in the book that it was done by accident. It came across as having been done on purpose, but having watched the movie after having read the book, it felt like the movie didn't explain why, so that's the only reason that I asked.
Okay, well.
One of the things that I wanted to address, because I had the opportunity to listen to this radio station earlier today and hear a wonderful program by William Cooper from 1994 in which he was discussing some of these mind control things. He was referencing that these mind control experiments and these abilities to affect a person and their choices and their actions stems back into the 1930s and even further back, and even mentioned that the Germans were doing this as early as like 1932, 1933, and I was wondering if Stratios or Maggot or anyone else who might be listening, if you have information that would correlate that data, because, well, quite frankly, I would like to know, but I would also like to know how it's progressed and moved since then.
Well, they have the Cooper mentioned Jim Channon in the First Earth Battalion, but it's progressed to the since '82. They've had the neurolinguistic programming, which that's based on Milton Erickson, who was doing it much earlier, but he was just doing it. He didn't really have it organized. Bandler and Grinder watched him like a bug and made a doctrine out of it, and that's being used constantly on us. Mind control tends to work in a literal way, and they want you to think figuratively while they program you literally. I mean, you know what I mean?
I'm just
by association.
devil's advocate and pretend that I'm totally confused, and it's not
You're
really
supposed to be confused.
well.
They do it so it's not clear.
Yeah.
Well, then, could you give me an example of how that actually works? Pretend
Well, the confusion one, I can do the confusion one because in Stratios anyway, but it's right about the confusion. The first thing they want you to do is become confused. They'll hit you from different angles, so you're in a state of confusion because this kind of detaches the ego. The ego doesn't know where it's at, so put more another way, you forget who you are, sort of thing, and it's like, oh, what's going on? Who am I? What are you talking about? Why are you saying that? You know, they'll come up to you with quotes and stuff that maybe your parents told you, like when you were a child, just hit you from out of nowhere with it, and it's like, what the fuck? And then they'll keep on hitting you with different other psychological ruses and stuff, and so you're in a state of confusion, and that's part of, like I was saying earlier about destroy. That's so it makes you sort of like malleable, you know, soft. And so then they can start sticking in the probes and fight and getting out what they want, get into the real you sort of thing, as opposed to the ego, which is like the shop front that people put up, as well as, you know, the great I am and all that.
right. Okay.
See, a lot of times they'll have signs. I'm looking through Kathy O'Brien real quick because she gives a bunch of examples of that, where they put up signs and you can take them overly literally, and everyone knows that that's not what it means, but to the mind control, it means something else.
Okay. Well, if I can try and reference a example, if I may, the Zeitgeist films that are available do this fast, quick, pound, 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 pound of the similarities between all these different deities that they are trying to coordinate with the idea of Yeshua. And they do it so quick and so fast to thrust any person who's watching it into going, oh wow, oh my gosh, I'm so confused. Who can ever actually know what's really coming out of this and what's real truth? And then they thrust their point right down your throat so that if you've fallen into that trap, you're automatically going to accept their conclusion because their conclusion must be true because they have studied all of this stuff and their quote-end quote truth is a coordination of all the confusion into one cohesive element. Tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm right.
They're just presenting theosophy as history. I think they're depending on your ignorance. They do go awfully fast, but I'm not sure if that's...
There's the point. They go faster than you can comprehend. That's the whole point.
I'm just asking, could that be a lower level of the same type of mind control that we're talking about?
It's not as effective. What you're...
Sure.
The quick editing of the old MTV is a good example of that, but I don't know. But Zeitgeist is simply presenting theosophy as history and hoping that everyone is too ignorant to look it up.
Oh yeah, Zeitgeist is just terrible.
Yeah.
It's just like a big smearing brush. They've taken like a load of religious books, chuck them in the wood burner or whatever,
no, they're not religious
paste
books.
it around.
It's simply theosophy. It's straight out of Blavatsky. And there was this horrible Dorothy Murdoch who apparently she wanted to get ahead in her lodge or something. I don't know. So she reworded the Blavatsky material into a book called The Christ Conspiracy. And what's interesting is it's in the same order as Blavatsky described it. So she's just she just has one book on one side, a blank piece of paper. She's just copying it across, and putting it in her own words. But it's out and out theosophy. It's not. There's no historical basis,
And I'm not even trying to get into a conversation about Zeitgeist right now. We can talk about that at some other point. I'm just asking as far as the construct of how it's presented.
No, I don't think so.
Goes.
I don't think you recognize it if you saw it. It happens. My favorite example of NLP used in the media is I call it the mind of the men of Mencia. I'm sorry, no, the mind of the men of the CIA.
Right.
That Mencia program. Right. That guy misuses the concept of hip comedy and irony. The reason it's hip comedy, the reason you use irony to tell truth in a censored environment. That's what Lenny Bruce did. That's what Richard Pryor and George Carlin did. They used irony to tell truth. And Sia uses irony to lie to you, and then waves his hand with the NLP and tells you it's funny, and the audience laughs. He's using NLP on the audience, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's grotesque. And he tells you when it's funny, and so you laugh then. It's hypnotism.
That's the same as canned laughter, though.
Yeah. No. That's a live audience he's manipulating.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But they do that anyway.
Obama does the same type of things, the same gestures. There's a great PDF you can get on the net that explains the gestures that Obama does during his speeches. Obama speeches are very, very planned in advance and staged to a crazy degree, even to the point where, yes, we can. They know that even record this with your own voice. Yes, we can, and then flip it around. It says, "Thank you, Satan."
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. It's disgusting. But you could take apart Mencia for hours. That show is it's like a hate crime. The whole show.
Yeah. I mean, comedy is a weird thing anyway. It took me years to understand a lot of American comedy, and the only way I got to know it was because of the canned laughter. A lot of the time I'd be watching it, I was thinking, I don't get it. I just don't see what's so funny. It took me years to understand comedy in general, because like some people have like a very dry sense of humour, and other people like find everything funny. And I think most stupid people find everything funny, but at first.
Right.
And so you sort of like need to be sort of like programmed into understanding comedy. A lot of English comedy is funny, but you've got to understand like English mentality in a way, or at least to see lots of it, and then you gradually get it. So it's a sort of like comedy is automatically a mind control device.
Sure, of course it is.
Yeah, because you're saying stuff and getting a reaction off somebody.
Well, any form of acting, any form of a portrayal of a character is automatically a mind control device. Comedy seems to be far more influential because it tends to connect with the day-to-day existence that people believe in. For example, you go to a movie and you know that the people that are on screen are acting, that they aren't really those individuals, and you know that, but you can get caught up and swept up into the movie. Musicians, you can go and watch a musician perform live, but you know that they're performing a song, that they're performing not even necessarily their music or anything. But comedy, I think, so much of it stems from the comedian's experience, that it has this overriding tendency of being a higher level of communicable truth, because people tend to respond to comedians as though they're talking about their own personal lives. When a comedian gets up and says, "Man, there's nothing worse in the world than being married, having somebody tell you what to do all the time," everyone who's married goes, "Of course, yes."
Laugh along with it.
Right. Whether or not it's really funny, whether or not it has any relevance of truth, it's that communication thing. And that's why I think comedy comes across as being an even more powerful level of mind control, like you were saying.
Yeah. Or they could just like say, "Man, my wife's a bitch." It's like, your wife's a female dog, like if the comedian's famous and well known, everybody's like, yeah, we know. It's like, they don't really know his wife. They never met her. She might not even exist, but they all relate to the guy because of the way he's talking. You know what I mean? It's like the sort of thing that like freaked me out. It's like you get that on like American stand-ups, and that was a bit weird experience me watching that. It's like, oh, okay, there's a lot of suggestion.
But now they're really playing on this concept of that you can go out there and wing it. Someone like Sacha Cohen is incredibly written in advance.
Yeah.
And he really does look like he's just stupid and winging it. And he's not. There's nothing of the kind going on.
Yeah.
Especially when he looks the most natural, he's the most written. You know. I mean, I was watching that season 2 of the Ali G show. It's incredible what he puts like Pat Buchanan through and people like that who don't know that they really do think he's stupid. You know, it's incredible when he's as Ali G. That's his best one.
Yeah, so a lot of it, I suppose, is trickery as well. I can't remember. There's 3 ways that comedy works. There's the shock comedy. I can't remember the other 2 at the moment. The other 2 are more obvious. There's repetition. And there's association, I think.
But the traditional American comedy makes me angry. I mean, it's just
that's shock comedy. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like
that's straightforward, right in your face type stuff.
Right.
Yeah, Mike Dice Clay or something. Yeah, I think it's Mike Dice Clay, or he's just called Dice.
Yeah, Dice Clay.
Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
Miss Buffett sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey.
Funny.
I'll put in fuck and nigger and everybody laughs. You know?
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's it. That's what took me so long to understand about American comedy. I was just like, why are they laughing? He's just inserting random swear words in. But it's because like he's on stage swearing, you know, it makes him
well, but unfortunately, because of so much of America has been based out of a repressive identity on a religious sense, the use of swear words is automatically considered to be funny or controversial because we created such a taboo, or there has been created such a taboo on it in the mass media culture, the mass education culture, and everything else.
Dice Clay is such a persona though on stage. I mean, the only funny bit I saw was at the end of one of his performances, towards the end, where this guy was like swearing at him for like 10 minutes and threatening him, and then he was coming up to the stage and stuff, and like he couldn't actually have the guards hold him back because Dice Clay thinks he's so hard. He's got this persona being so hard, but he's just like arguing his way out of it for about 10 minutes. This guy is like threatening to kill him and stuff, and like break his legs and go back home and all this sort of stuff, just threatening him, and like he was like trying to back off, but not back off because he's such a macho dick. He's trying to say, I'm just acting at him. He couldn't say it because he's trying to do satire.
Right.
And that was the only funny bit. It was just been funny if he got smacked in the face. So I just don't really appreciate his humour at all, really. It's like, get on stage and be a joik.
Yeah.
Act like a schmuck, and then it's like you're taking the piss out of it. Like every like working class person, really, because it's like, yeah, I'll be like that on stage. It's be like, yo, motherfucking bitches, I'll smack their asses, I'll shoot that bitch.
But they desensitize you to things that way, and then they.
That's it, yeah, that's it. It's like I got no feelings, me, you know.
That's why I always preferred Sam Kinison in the same period. But the NLP is also it's. Did you ever see it? The X-Files? They had a character named Pusher.
Mm-hmm.
Pusher he was a serial killer who didn't touch you. He told the woman to jump in front of the train, and she did it.
Right.
He told the cop to douse himself with gasoline and then walk over to Mulder and light himself on fire. And the guy's saying, "Stop me, stop me," and he can't stop doing it. They attribute that to he had some brain injury, but that's not why he was able to do that. Richard Bandler talked about that he thought that they were going to, since he got it by studying a famous psychiatrist, that he would be selling the same thing to other psychiatrists who came to his seminars was Maybelline. And, I mean, the idea that they've convinced American women that, well, I feel really bad about myself, but if only I had green under my eyes, I would feel so much better. I mean, you're wearing clown makeup. You don't see there's a problem there. I don't know.
In, is it Conan the Barbarian? The first movie they did, I think. The High Priest, the one who shapeshifts in the orgy ceremony, he uses NLP or whatever. He has the two priestesses either side of him or something, and he gets them to jump off the cliff edge, and he goes, "That's real power," or something.
It's a literal where you think there's a figurative.
Yeah. Yeah, he just commands them or something, raises his hand, and he points to edge.
Literal.
Yeah.
Because your mind supposedly thinks literally, even though you're trained to think the other way. Your conscious mind doesn't think that way, but your subconscious thinks literally. So whenever they can plan that out, it's really hard to plan out, That's why they don't do it well. I don't know. And see, I've got tremendous material on NLP, and all of Bandler's pay seminars and everything. I've collected them over the years, and I won't watch it because I find it morally reprehensible. I should have studied it, but you'd be tempted to use it.
I mean, they're probably saying voodoo or something that he transfers the lower into the subject, and the lower controls the host. Lower is like just a voodoo word for the spirit. So, he sort of infects the host with the spirit, the evil spirit or the great spirit, and that's the thing that controls them and compels them to jump off a cliff or set themselves on fire or, go on a rampage. So basically he overrides their own mental processes. But they'd have already been weakened by exposure to drugs and association with the priest in this case, the high priest, whatever he was, Templar Set or something. He was supposed to be some sort of ancient Egyptian divinity. I think he was supposed to be Set or something.
In the first Conan movie?
Yeah.
The one with James Earl Jones, that's the guy you're referring to?
That's the one, yeah.
Okay, yeah. With the double snakes all over the place.
Yeah. And he's supposed to shape-shift into a snake himself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to go with this topic.
I was just trying to understand the source, that's all.
Yeah, it's just a power of suggestion, really. That's what it was about, and how he used the closeness to his subjects. Just to say that he could do anything he liked with them.
Well, I think that's been represented multiple times, not even under, or rather, not even over people that have been subjected to government-controlled MK Ultra programming. And take a look at Jim Jones, the Maharishi, and the Suicide Cult. Even when Haley's Comet came back through in the 90s, and the psychos out in California who covered themselves in purple cloths and committed suicide and stuff. I mean,
that's Hale Bob Comet.
I'm sorry, right? The Haley Bob Comet, not the Haley
Hale.
Right. I apologize.
Hale Limbot.
Researched or anything in quite some time, so I apologize. But
and Waker as well.
Well
no. You don't think that was a mind control
No, I don't.
thing?
No.
You think you
think it's mind controlling the American people, but I don't think.
Yeah.
But see, like the stuff they wanted to claim it was because he said I've seen the whole video, the raw video that they chopped up. See, the rules are you're not allowed to cut anybody's sentence in half. They used to be you could when you're quoting somebody. It used to be you would let them have the whole paragraph because you were polite. Now they'll let you. The courts have ruled about it's one whole sentence at least. Let him have the whole. You can't say I'm going to burn you a Beatles CD, and then they say, he said I'm going to burn you. You can't cut the sentence in half. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
But they did that with Koresh. They were talking about there had been a claim that he had made some 72-year-old woman pregnant. And he said, well, that's just ridiculous. If I did that, then I'm God. I mean, because she couldn't have become pregnant. So they chop that in half, and they go, well, then I'm God.
Right.
And they say that a million times in a row, and people say, well, he must be mind control and all that. No, it isn't. Not everything. I mean, and plus it violates the rule, too. And that was simple warrant service for a guy that he didn't live in that. A lot of people, they came from a foreign country, from Australia and all that, so they lived together in that place. He lived in town in an apartment. He would jog past the police station every day, and he knew them and was friends with them. Like the one interview in that Waco, I forgot which tape it is. They said, well, yeah, he would stop every day, and we liked him. He would bring us the good coffee. I mean, but the feds wanted to go in there with tanks. You know what I mean? They wanted to make a big scene out of it. That if the guy stops by the police station every day to say hello, get him then. I mean, if you're going to give him a warrant.
Right, if you,
But no, they wanted to make a big scene out of it and make it claim all this stuff and then run in there with tanks, which violates posse comitatus. That was mind controlling the American people. That wasn't mind control. That he wasn't doing mind control. They weren't that far out there.
Yeah. It was a social experiment to see if the government could get away with using the military to kill civilians.
Yes.
I say in a nutshell. Oh yeah, I had studied the whole case. I was just wondering.
They're always throwing up a trial balloon like that.
And I have to say the experiment was a complete success because there wasn't any real feedback at all. People were just like, oh okay, just carry on with their lives.
Well, it's like the Oklahoma City bombing. They had the Patriot Act written even prior to the Oklahoma City bombing, and they did that to try
They
to...
had the the Terrorist Effective Death Penalty Act prepared in advance.
Right, exactly.
Not the Patriot Act.
I apologize. The precursor to the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
But
And Clinton had tried to pass it the year before and couldn't pass it, and this did it for him. You can always tell when it's a trick because they have a patsy out front. You can always tell when it's them. There's a patsy out front. It's physically impossible, and they have legislation ready to go. As a solution to this problem, that they do this stuff because they're trying to, take your rights away. So it's a Hegelian dialectic. But part of it is that they have the patsy out front, and what they claim happened is physically impossible.
Right, exactly. Well, and they actually learned that. They learned how to perpetuate that idea in the 1950s, because the mafia actually executed the Attorney General of the state of Alabama, or might be Arkansas, but I believe it was Alabama, because of their attempt to prosecute the brothel casino thing that existed across the river from a major military base. And to control the element, they they killed the Attorney General of the state, but never set up a patsy, and so it created this whole huge uproar. And so they learned quickly from that that they needed to establish a patsy, so that once someone was assassinated, the patsy could be set up, and then the patsy would be removed. I mean, you look at the JFK assassination, they set up the patsy for JFK of Oswald, and then they eliminated him by having him shot by Jack Ruby. And then they allowed Jack Ruby to get the death penalty. So within 5 years, everyone who had any identity of who pulled the trigger at any point or could testify as to whether or not they did or didn't do it,
Jack Ruby died of cancer.
Was gone.
He died of cancer?
Jack Ruby died in jail.
He died of cancer.
Okay.
In jail. He didn't get the death penalty. Or he might. I don't know what the sentence was, but he died of a very fast-growing cancer right away.
Well, he was given a death sentence.
Okay.
I know that only because I'm reading a whole book.
But they didn't give any literature. I mean,
no, they didn't execute him, but he was given the death penalty for premeditated open murder. Right. Now, how he suddenly contracted this cancer that killed him that quick.
Trying to talk.
Yeah.
And so they gave him the fast-growing cancer. All right. We have fantastic mind control in this country, and it's getting to the point where the schools give you a psychiatric test and then use it against you with computer remediation until you think like a globalist. They train you for the test and not to learn anything, not to think. They brag about your increased memory space and that your lack of critical thinking, even though they have classes where they claim they're teaching critical thinking, but it's not critical thinking, it's indoctrination.
Right.
And then they want to train you against things like self-evident truth. The student is so quick to pick out self-evident, and training you that things like math are done by consensus. We don't vote on 2 + 2 is 4. If we all vote on 2 + 2 is 5, it's still 4.
Right. Well, but that's because those things are nothing more than concept ideas.
And the idea of claiming that you're not patriotic if you're not with us for
right.
this crazy war for no reason.
It's a concept idea.
Yeah.
It's an indoctrination procedure.
Using the word conspiracy as a pejorative with no meaning. That's just a conspiracy. Well, conspiracy is how the entire world works. It's how the world has always worked. It's disgusting. And to claim that two people couldn't get together who were government officials and plan something is just ludicrous and impossible. Of course it can. And they do it all the time. In larger groups, much larger groups.
Of course they do. They do it even under the auspices of operating as the government. It's how they maintain and consolidate control is by changing language. If you actually look at the word conspiracy, its literal understanding is an agreement or planning of two or more persons to do an act in concert. A combination between two or more persons to commit any unlawful act or to effect a legal purpose by unlawful means. So a conspiracy is two or more people who do anything together to create an act that is either an act by itself or an unlawful act or a legal act by unlawful means. So if a legal act is created by two or more people for unlawful means, such as establishing the necessity of a driver's license or the Drug Enforcement Act or the Patriot Act or whatever, that they are legal acts, they're legal means to qualify an unlawful act, then it's a conspiracy. But if you were to say that about any of those things, well, then you would automatically be locked up, because conspiracy has, like you said, Estratios, been given a pejorative term. And it's just unfortunate, and it's just another element of how they try to control us.
Brainwashing is way out of control now. Some of my relatives were passing it for Christmas, these TSA locks that have back doors in them. So you're buying a lock so that you can submit to the government's opening your bags. You know what I mean? The TSA lock. I mean, it's like, well, the alternative is to have them cut your locks off. No, it's not. The alternative is to have them not search you. Mm-hmm. The alternative is for you to have your God-given rights respected by the government, who's there to protect them.
And I definitely have evidenced this firsthand. I got married in 2002, and the wife and I flew for our honeymoon. We flew in and out of the country. I'm a variety of different nationalities, most predominantly Native American, German, and French. So my skin tone is a little dark, my hair is black, my eyes are black, I have a sparse beard that barely forms across my chin and face, and every time that we had to get off a plane and get onto a new plane, I was checked head to toe. My bags were checked. I had to take my sandals off to walk through a metal detector, and had my sandals x-rayed, simply because I look the way that I do. And that's exactly what it's done. That's exactly why this whole thing's established, to attempt to ascertain who and what is going to create problems, and by doing so, it fails to take into consideration the real threats that do exist, that are being perpetrated by the revocation of our rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I was pissed. I was pissed every single time that I had to go through the whole process, especially considering I was already on a plane in the U.S. Why do I have to go back through security just to make sure that I'm not going to do something on the next leg of the same flight?
Yeah. You can't submit to that. Famously, Robert Menard was not allowed to get on the plane, even though he wasn't on the watch list, but because he didn't have proper ID. So there's a whole bunch of films on that. Mr. Mighty is his username on YouTube, and he argues with them about getting on the plane, and it's really quite interesting, using some of the Freeman tactics.
I don't think I've seen that set of films.
Yeah, I have to look them up and get the names. But it's under Mr. Mighty on YouTube. Mr. M-I-T-I-E. 2 E's.
M-I-T-I-E-E?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mr. M-R-M-I-T-E-E.
Gotcha.
So anyway.
Well, Maggot, have you experienced any of these types of things while going through the airports? Have you been limited in your capacity to travel or anything?
No, not at all. It's quite amusing. Totally the opposite. I just don't get stopped. If you CK me. I found this interesting news article the other day. Have you seen it yet? The Microsoft skin puts arms into buttons.
Yeah.
It's quite freaky. You've got to look at it. Yeah. So if a picture tells 1,000 words. Oh, look at the button at the top. 21 on the hand.
Yeah.
Under the middle finger.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite strange. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 21. What? Well, it's probably not 21. It's probably 212 or something.
Yeah. That's really scary. It projects onto your skin a keyboard. It's really creepy.
Yeah, it's like a tattoo or something. I don't know how it works at all. I haven't seen the video yet. But...
I hate Microsoft. You know they have in the stores the Microsoft USB thumb scanner because the next time the Pentagon lies about a computer attack from China or something. The last time they did it was in December when they lied and claimed that they were attacked by the internet worm, which is dead in 91. They we're going to have to shut the internet down. I mean, the hackers from right. So they have the Microsoft thumb scanner. They're going to want you to thumb scan to prove your identity before you get on the internet. So I'll be cutting off some people's thumbs. And I'll have a whole variety. This is just so stupid. We're never doing that. They might as well just back off that. But they have them in the store now, and you know that the next time they make one of these lies, they're going to try to pull this stunt, and it's not going to work. They're going to get spanked like they've never been spanked before. That's what's going to happen when they try any of these things. It won't be me. It'll be the uninformed people who don't know, who just will not put up with this. You know, and they can depend on it. They're not going to get away with this stuff.
Well, I guess it depends upon how they set the next false flag attack, though.
I think that if they did anything like that, people would scream so loudly, "It's you!" even before anything happened. I mean, the first you go to the usual suspects. In this case, the usual suspects is the government. It wouldn't matter what it is. I mean, I wish I had taped the initial coverage of that Christmas Day bomber because I saw it there at my parents' house. It was a perfect example of how Fox News lies to people. Although I'm sure every other channel did it the same way. Where they had that. See, in 2000 when they had the full body scanners, they're even shown in Alex Jones' Road to Tyranny. They wanted those desperately, the full body scanners, and people said no way. And now they put the guy in the plane with a condom filled with something that didn't blow up. And now we have the full body scanners. And if you go through a full body scanner, they are scanning you naked. And if you go through one of those, you're an idiot to allow them to do that. I mean, they should be punched in the face. I mean, I'm sorry that we're supposed to advocate Freeman stuff, but I wouldn't put up with that for 15 seconds. You know? Let them lose out on the business, too. You know?
I'm watching the video. It's just creepy.
Yeah, it films you so well. It films your pores. You can't take this good of a picture with normal film.
You got cameras on it as well, is it?
And I really respect England. England, they allowed it, but they forbid it for children because it's child porn. They would have enormous databases filled with child porn then because they have children walking through them.
Yeah.
How dare you? Any of it. They have to feel up. They have to feel up your wife and your grandmother too, because she's a terrorist. She works for Al Qaeda, the non-existent bullcrap. You know.
Well, yeah, Al Qaeda is nothing more than the name that was given to the computer program.
The database that John Deutsch lost at his house. He lost it at his own house, and then so Clinton pardons him for this.
Right. I mean, people. Unfortunately, what has happened is that people are just, first of all, they're not encouraged to learn any of this truth by themselves, but then they're constantly bombarded with the opposite of any of this, so that when they're presented with it, their knee-jerk reaction is to go, no way can any of this be true. And as much as I would like to believe that people are smarter than this, I constantly and continuously run into huge segments of people who either look at any of this information and go, well, you're just being a terrorist, or you're not patriotic, or you're anti-government.
They don't get that. I don't let that go by for 1 second when I hear it. I don't hear it that much anymore. I nail you right to the wall. I'll pull out the iPod right that second. I'll pull books out of the car. I nail people to the wall. I don't let that go on. The first second someone says something like that, I will nail them to the wall until they are freaking out. I mean, I don't let that go by. And I recommend someone try to call me a conspiracy theorist to my face and see what happens. That'll really be the end of it. I don't put up with this garbage. And I find I never run into a conflict on this because everybody knows all the information. I mean, in fact, I don't have to be upset because everybody I run into knows about this stuff, and they chime in with detail. You can tell the detail of how much they know, which I think is great. And you were telling me that you run into the exact opposite. And if you allow it, it just gets worse.
Well, but I don't think I allow it.
You've got to confront them right then. This is 2010. If you don't know that 9/11's an inside job now, there's something mentally. You're either part of it or you're mentally ill. That's who you're. Obviously, you're running into people that are part of it. Because if they sincerely don't know what's happening, they're part of it, or they're mentally ill, or they'd be too stupid to really get it. It's offensive at this point.
Well, yes,
and mind control. It's not mind control. It's people that lie to you.
Absolutely agree with all of those things that you just said. I absolutely agree with that indication of the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis that feel that way. The problem is that if you get outside of major cities, if you get out into more rural areas, if you get out into smaller segments of the population, because these people either choose or have grown up with a limited level of understanding,
there's an excuse. They're directly lying to you. People know about this stuff, and especially in rural areas where they're not.
If I can finish my thoughts,
it's always an excuse.
What you run into is that these people have an adamant faith in the goodness of all human people. That it is nearly an impossibility for them to believe for a moment that those individuals that they have put their trust and faith in and elected into government are doing anything like this, or their concept.
They've only done it 1,000 times before, and they couldn't possibly have done it now.
Well, but none of that gets progressed.
Are you joking? The numbers, the stats on people believing Oswald did it or not did it. 100% of the population believes Oswald didn't do it.
How much of the percentage of the population?
150%.
I wonder how you can get 0.5% of the total population.
Because you have to be an idiot to think so.
Well,
nobody thinks so now.
No, that's not true.
They've done stats. It's something like 80% or whatever.
But statistics are based upon the people that actually respond. There is a gross amount of people who, as soon as they're presented with any kind of a question that calls into examination something that they believe is being fundamental, they'll hang up, and they are no longer counted towards the statistic that you might be citing. So you have to check and see where your statistical data is coming from. You can say 80% of the population doesn't believe Oswald acted by himself, but that's not entirely accurate. That means 80% of the people that finished the poll believe that, but that doesn't take into
consideration. For the FBI?
Yes.
Well, no, but I think it's fair to state that it works in the same way, that you can only take statistics in as much validity as you can take voting as validity. The statistics are only counted again by those people who finish an entire poll, and if people choose to stop taking the poll halfway through, regardless of what their answers are, they aren't counted towards the end result of what the poll is.
81% Gallup poll. 81%. 13% believes one man. The Gallup poll. Look on Gallup.com. 13%.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
In 93, 75%. The last poll was taken in 2001. 81%.
But again, that's people who actually respond to the poll. The statistics don't lie, but liars do statistics.
Gallup is a shill organization, and they found this. So I'd be told the truth about 9/11, and they got shut down. This is overwhelming. There's no way to stop this. That everyone thinks that Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy. Everybody. Idiots. They probably took this in the Pentagon and got 13%. I mean, that, you know what I'm saying? People are paid to lie to you. That's where they found 13%. The rest of everyone else on the planet Earth believes the opposite. The people who are, and really, I think the people who they polled who said 13% said so out of fear. You'd have to be insane to think that back into the left. Jesus Christ.
I'm not saying or making any comments.
Then you look into 9/11, every part of it falls apart like wet tissue paper. There's no part of it that's true. Even the footage is not true.
And again, I am not trying to advocate one side or the other.
I can't take for 1 second this garbage anymore. I can't tolerate it. And it's not a valid position at all. To listen to lies, that's why I don't have the TV hooked up. I watch my DIVX player and what I download. Can't take it anymore. Just sit there and watch lies. And we're being lied to it all. I feel 100% less brainwashed, speaking of MK Ultra, by not having the TV hooked up anymore. That, especially the roll in between the shows, that crap in between the shows where they lie to you. They have 900 channels here at my parents' house. I flipped through it. It's unbelievably bad. It's unwatchable.
Yeah. The TV and radio, especially like pop radio, is just like 100% mind control.
Yeah,
24 hours a day.
Because they fix it so that no one can write their own material.
Yeah. But not only that, it's it's also the selections they use, the timing of the songs they use, the dialogue that goes on between songs, the way they keep on quoting the same stuff. It's like they keep playing the same examples.
They even run the same theme between like 4 or 5 shows on one channel through a whole block of time.
I mean, people have the experience where they see the things that are reported on the news are lies. The incident where someone is the victim of something, and people go to them and try to help them out. They've had this happen over and over again. And they find out that the incident is a shill incident, and they're trying to pass some legislation. They think that these people are victims of something, or they were robbed, or whatever, but that's not a real reporting. That's to get some bizarre legislation passed, and these people are really shills, and it didn't really happen. When they actually go, and they're sincere. People are sincere. They see the news, and they think, I'm going to go help that family who got hurt. And you find out they're shills when you get there, because they're not really real people. If you were to blow up a building, they wouldn't cover it. They only cover it if it's physically impossible with a patsy out front for a political motive, and they didn't. I mean, the whole news is completely staged. They don't cover real news of any kind. All the incidents are frauds. And I understand maybe England actually is famous for having a little more legitimate news than we are. Although we are so brainwashed in this country, we think we have the freest press in the world.
Well, we don't get Fox News. I'm reading an article.
You get Sky News.
Yeah, we do get Sky. Yeah, we got BBC. I haven't watched Sky News actually, to be honest. I haven't seen that yet.
Well, Sky News is also owned by Murdoch.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And people think it's conservative, and I've had to explain to one friend of the family that Glenn Beck is not in the underground. And this is the same network that brought you Married with Children. Speaking of
so I'm reading this article by the Canada Free Press, but it's using quotes from the Fox News network. I thought I'd read it out, but it's like, if it's Fox News, I don't know, possibly not. It was just it says it's by Dick Morris. Bill Clinton personally orchestrated the 1993 Waco, Texas tragedy. And after
where? Let's have a link.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just give you a link.
By Dick Morris, no less. That guy's an incredible liar. Wow. Well, okay, yeah. That lesbian did it too. What's her name? The Butcher of Waco.
Yeah.
Janet Reno.
Look at him. Looks like such a twat.
Yeah. He was so happy after that.
Oh.
I'll give out a tiny URL so people can follow it.
Yeah, because a lot of it's hyperbole, and I can't be bothered reading now. The first paragraph is like...
The article we're referring to is tinyurl.com Y4E5HOU. Most people know how to do tinyurl. You just type in the 6 characters. Y4E5HOU. That's 7. I guess tinyurl, they've done so many that they had to move on to 7 letters. Wow. And that's the Canadian Free Press. I mean, an article by Dick Morris.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not by Dick Morris. People interviewed Dick Morris. Okay. But still, I mean, to take him as a legitimate source is like talking to Karl Rove, And then this is a kind of brainwashing, too, because here he's exposing the truth to you, right? Dick Morris is exposing the truth to you. If Dick Morris says that, I don't believe it, but then now here it is. I would have to deny that Bill Clinton would be part of the Waco thing. So they hold it against you backwards. Now Dick Morris is our truth teller. I don't know. I just feel I'm on the wrong planet and I'd like to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, God, call me a conspiracy theorist to my face. You're not walking out of there.
There's a lot of implication in the article. It's not. You linked to it anyway. I can't really be bothered. This is like a bit of a he says, she says. There's nothing really concrete in it.
Yeah. Oh, they're quoting the Hannity show on Fox News.
Yeah, that's it. It's got sort of okay.
Scary. I don't know. What should we talk about next?
I'm just looking through my emails at the moment, just seeing if I can find anything else.
Well, getting back to the MK Ultra idea and to the governmental mind programming thing, I wanted to ask what both of your opinions were on the possibility of any of the 9/11 implicated individuals being subject to MK Ultra programming or any kind of governmental programming, and how MK Ultra or governmental programming might have played a role in how that was perpetrated and presented to the American public as well as the worldwide public.
I don't think so, but because they had these slick purchased ex-Republican Guard kind of people like Muhammad Atta who have nothing to do with Islam, who've never heard of Islam. I mean, the guy lived at the Pensacola Naval Air Station with his stripper girlfriend on the base, right? And then the other ones who lived nearby, they were renting from an FBI handler, not just an informant, but a direct employee. And so Muhammad Ali, who wears gold jewelry, who eats pork, who hangs out with his girlfriend at the strip club, is not. I mean, they don't have to mind control you. They've sold him to the decadent American concept, you know. And so he just does whatever they tell him. I mean, and all he had to do is leave a legacy, leave his Quran at the bar. Have a specially packed suitcase and leave that in the trunk, and don't take it with you in the plane. You know, the suitcase had how to fly a commercial airliner videotape that you might just buy at the store. You know, the whole thing's ludicrous. And so they're not mind controlled, because if they were mind controlled, they would have believed they were fundamentalist Islam. But in this case, they were clearly not. You know, it's not used in every event.
Okay.
Because it's not that effective, and people will call you on it. You know, when it is used.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when it's obvious. Yeah. A lot of times they don't ever catch it. It's like people being sort of docile.
In recent memory, they've been just using overwhelming force and people who are obvious shills. In the 7/7 thing, they had to sit on the guy and shoot him 14 times to keep him quiet. The guy from Brazil, who was part of it. He wasn't really part of it, but they had to keep him quiet for some reason. So, I mean,
I've got a sort of appropriate article I found. It's from Wired. I think that's Wired magazine. Ultra thin silk-based electronics make better brain implants.
Great.
I'll post. Yeah, I know.
See, they're always working on that in one way or another. They desperately want to augment you.
Yeah. I posted the link.
Well, let's talk about the whole augmentation element of NWO's program.
That's what Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
The cyborg. That's what Zeitgeist tries to sell you as transhumanism.
I just read from the article. That's pretty much saying the same thing about it should enter Darth Vader, pretty much. Okay. Silk has made its way from the soft curves of the body to the spongy folds of the brain. Engineers have now designed silk-based electronics that stick to the surface of the brain, similar to the way a silk dress clings to the hips. The stretchable, ultra-thin design, notice the word ultra-thin, ultra in part of the name, ultra-thin design, would make for better brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, apparently, which record brain activity in paralysed patients and translate thoughts into movements of computer cursors or robotic arms. Because they always introduce it with the healthy benefits to society, you know. Never mind the fact that they could just cut open your scalp and put this thing in your brain, and you never know about it, really. You know.
I can't wait to meet someone who's stupid enough to do that, so I can just rip it right back out.
Yeah. Might never find it if it's just silk.
Yeah.
I guess it's sticky silk. Because it's so thin and flexible, a silk-based device could reach regions of the brain that were previously inaccessible. They'll be switching you on in areas of the brain that you never knew you had.
It's like RoboCop. They sell you the 3 things that seem good, and then they have the secret 4th, rule.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And you know that's what they'll do to you.
Because they all design this stuff for like military purposes or whatever, and they'll have it for a specific intention in mind, and then they'll have to send other people, other scientists around, sort of like social engineers and stuff. It's like, well, how can we actually sell using this on the public? You know, because they don't automatically think like that. They think we want mind control killers. And so we want you to develop a device to make it so we can do it to pretty much anybody, you know, like 20 minutes of surgery or whatever, and there you go, mind control killer, perfect. But we want to have it so it's available in all hospitals and stuff, you know, ideally, or available in like 500 hospitals. And so we want you to...
you know? They've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
It's always for military purposes.
Yeah.
Well, and even
all the technology is.
Well, Ayn Rand spent so much of her time refuting the whole idea of altruism, and that's what's been adopted by the entire modern NWO. If you will look at it, it's pure Ayn Randianism. It's absolute objectivism. It's only that which contributes to the consolidation and effort of existence. Got no place for altruism.
She was the girlfriend of Philip Rothschild.
That I aware of, but doesn't surprise me at all.
They always have to dress it up nicely, though. I guess they got the United Nations to do that for them, or whatever, and the social engineering, social scientists. So it's like, it's really useful. Previously paralysed patient can now move their arms and legs.
And they can also kill the president. You know, I mean,
that's it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, now the president's bodyguards can guard him 24 hours a day, and they know exactly where he is. And so
we help Stevie Wonder to see so well he can be a sniper now.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Ferris Bueller decided that if he dies, he's going to donate his eyes to Stevie Wonder.
He became the gayest man of all time. With known beards, every time he appears with a woman, she's a famous beard of one kind or another. The best known example is Sarah Jessica Parker, but he is the gayest human being on earth.
Really?
Yeah.
I could probably find some people that might rival that. But,
I don't know, it's a contest, but I think he might win.
Fair enough. But regardless,
okay, I'm just like skipping bits. There was a bit about a cat. Oh, that is. The team found that the mesh-like device conforms perfectly to the contours on the model of the human brain. When tested on the visual processing area of the cat's brain, the flexible array, about 1/40th of the thickness of a sheet of paper, faithfully recorded neural activity for about a month without causing inflammation. Recorded neural activity. So they've been recording the cat's brain waves, and so that can eventually become like a transmissible signal, so they'll be able to see what you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite freaky. That's Mission Earth, because he had cameras in his eyes and recording equipment in his ears. Josh O'Hella. So all they need to do is put one of those silk things over the visual cortex. That's the visual area of the brain, that receives all the signals, and then over the eardrums or something like that, and they'll be able to see everything you see, you hear everything you hear, and there's no way you can see it, and it doesn't cause any information on the cat anyway.
I say try it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Oh, they've already started trying it.
Brave New World Order. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
See what happens.
They say the system produced better signals compared with more rigid electrode arrays, which are about 30 times thicker. So there you go. They've already tried it. Mm-hmm. They tried it on the old rigid electrode arrays, and they were fine. But the information got quite severe, and our agents got discovered quite quickly. It's like you see them with glowing copper areas of their skull, pick out radio stations, and nobody can hear it.
Delgado made the bull turn left. They claim that they can do that kind of thing without the electrode, but now they're back to it again.
Yeah, that's it. This is like 30 times thinner than the old methodology. Doing it. Yeah.
He had electrodes.
Its full potential remains to be seen in long-term BCI studies. That means they're going to. that means they're going to play it on a larger population.
Yeah,
It's full potential, yeah.
who will now be government assisted to give their compliance to consent.
Yeah. Well, little Johnny always gets lost. We need to put this implant in him so we know where he is. The other ones we tried, he doesn't like them. He just doesn't like them.
But again,
it is.
the whole program is always forced onto the human populace is by trying to explain it as being done for their benefit.
The one piece of software Microsoft actually wrote themselves was a help system called Bob that they tried to market, and they sold it in magazines as the friendly policeman, and the two young preschool children are lost, and they go to the policeman for help. They never got anywhere with it. People were so angry to see that to sell it as the helpful policeman. That's the help system, who's going to help you find your way home. I mean, so the only thing they ever wrote never reached market because the marketing was so bad. So they stuck with the CHM.
Yeah. They say that scientists would like to extend their findings by making fully dissolvable implantable electronics, monitoring and stimulating tissue growth. So that'd be like a new beginning for bodybuilders. They'll just like get plugged in with all these little circuits.
They need to be responded with. I mean, you see what happened when they put that in, they tried to put out that marketing. People were so angry they didn't even they didn't even just change the name and put it out anyway.
Yeah.
It never came out because they need every time they see that's the way they think, and they need to be responded to with that much opposition, so they can learn to back off, so they can learn to just quit. I mean, the mindset that would do something like that, the mindset that would try to present these things to us, they need to be responded to with such a rejection, you know.
Yeah, because this isn't just like something that amplifies a natural electrical response in the body or whatever. Not just something like steroids or something like that. This is sort of like a feedback interface. That means you're communicating with an outside computer. Mm-hmm. It's quite Bionic Man, really.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They have also developed rolled-up devices which they could deliver to the brain without making large holes in the skull during surgery. Well, they could stick it up your nose.
Yeah, like you need a hole
when
in
you
the
sleep.
head. Like you need it like you need a hole in the head. I mean,
that's what I mean. I'm just thinking how simple it would be to do. They could just like roll it up, stick it up your nose, and that's it. You're implanted. You never know. They do it in your sleep.
Comfortable.
Well, it's almost fully dissolvable, and
okay.
yeah, and it will just like basically cling to like the part of your brain. It's possible they could do that sort of thing. Who knows? If it's so interfaced, it could possibly be able to move along the surface of the brain, like crawl, until it reaches the right
They
part.
just don't grasp how angry people are in this country now. You know what I mean? That the palpable anger that you can feel when they present one of these things, they don't grasp it. And
I would counter.
Can you imagine the blowback that they're going to get when they try the next thing?
Well, that's and if I may, that's why I try to pay attention to what's presented in major mainstream media, because I think they do know what the anger level is. I think they do know how palpable it is, and they're attempting to do everything they can to subvert it. They are not only on the surface level trying to placate the masses by making them once again believe that the media is critiquing what's going on, but at the same time they are taking any element that might or could be considered as contradicting the current established order that isn't sanctioned by the media to be vilified, so that you create the enemy.
But the true answer is going to be they're going to have to be removed. Their entire family is going to have to be killed. The entire group has to be removed from our society. We can't have them living among us. They're dangerous. These are the people that have been lying to us for how long now? More than 130 years. This entire group has to be removed.
Well, but they
can't have any success or any benefit from the crimes that they've committed. every aspect of it has to be removed. All of it has to be reversed. Every part of it.
The only thing that I would say is that the rhetoric that you're using is
they need to go. On the basis of what would happen to me if I did it.
Well, and I understand that, but you're inciting violence.
No, I'm not. They know that if I were them, I would get into the body bag right now, zip myself up, and put a name tag on the front and wait. That's what that's the only appropriate action for them to take at this point. Just wait, or feel free to help us out by just eliminating yourself, because you know that there's no way that your plan is going to succeed. I mean, I would only join a plan if there was some hope of success. See what I mean? These people have joined a plan that they know that they're under zero chance is it ever going to make it. Ever. And they really are just still moving forward, and they've already lost. Why would you continue on with a plan that you know there's no hope for?
Because they don't know that there's no hope for.
They
still have control. They believe that they still have control, and that's what the most devastating part to it is that even though we are in a position to understand that they have to know their own levels of fallibility and where the extent of their authority or their supposed authority can extend to, doesn't mean that these people that are orchestrating and working within the system believe that they can fail. They absolutely believe that they can succeed because they have to. Why else would you join it? Because, once again, why would you join a system that you know is going to fail unless you believe that you have the absolute power and authority to succeed in the face of failure? And that's what makes it dangerous, is because they are adamantly given to defending their sense of duty, honor, right, etc., etc.
Even the shill, Glenn Beck, had a show on about we outnumber them. And we outnumber them 800 or more to 1. There's no way to win. Let them try the next false flag attack, please.
Yes, but as long as they can convince a huge majority of the people
they haven't.
That there's no way that they can stand up to it without dying.
Well, people are willing to die to make this stop.
There's a vast majority that aren't.
That's not true. You're so uninformed. I can't believe it. I have done fantastic research into this. I have gathered so much data. Do you understand how many radio shows there are? How many little podcasts there are? How many people there are out there? It's incredible. It's not a minority. It's a majority. It's everywhere you go. You've got to get out. If you're in some pocket of ignorance, or if you live in like a town like Columbine where they're all military contractors who are paid to lie to you, I'm sorry, but the rest of the world has caught on.
I definitely want...
You're obviously meeting people who are part of it.
I don't think I'm meeting people that are part of it. I think that I'm encountering people for whom this isn't even a discussion. For whom this doesn't even come into
that's the mark of a shill. That's the mark of a shill.
Well, no, you're
do they debate with us? Does the other side debate with us? Have we ever had a valid debate with any of these people? Never, because they never come forward and say, well, our plan is so great because this, and this. They can't sell it. It's not a sales... And they can't defend it. They can't defend the lie. They can't have a debate because it might encourage us to look... It might encourage the public to look up the answer. They always bring on a lib who's never heard of our platform, and then they fumble the ball right there, and then Bill O'Reilly will claim, oh, look at that lib and all this, and he's an idiot. And they would never bring on Tex Mars because you might go to his website and see that he's right.
But you're constructing a system that indicates that everyone is either one or the other. And that's, I don't think that's valid because I think, and allow me, please, for just a minute, and I'll be brief. There are a large majority of people for whom 9/11 truth the establishment of the New World Order and all of the understandings that we understand are real. That we know and grasp it as truth because it is truth. And there's a large majority of people out there for whom they know that the truth and are operating in opposition to it. But I think that if you actually spend time with people for whom they don't have access to the internet on a regular basis, that
Who would that be?
but you see, that's just it. The fact that you have to ask that question indicates that
Who could
you
that
don't.
possibly be?
The fact that you ask that question means that you don't realize that it could exist. There are millions and millions and millions of people across this entire country right now who have no access to the internet, who have no access
You
to.
live in Kashmir?
Well, no. I mean, even within my hometown, and I can cite this because when I go to my local library,
Maybe they rounded up all the idiots in your and
when
moved them to your
I
town.
go to my local library,
Like from all over the country, the dumbest people in the country, and they moved them to your town?
it may be, but I would doubt that because my
Possible.
hometown would be populated by millions of people, and it isn't. When I go to my local library to do research, to go through and pore over law texts and law dictionaries and legal texts to try and understand more about the whole Freeman identity and be able to articulate from an informed background, there is a line that is about 2 hours long of people wanting to access the internet through the library. So first of all, there's a line of 2 hours worth of people who only have access to the internet through a publicly mandated and controlled institution, which means the information that they're allowed to access off of this web server that's controlled by a government-controlled institution is limited. And that's just my hometown, which is small comparatively. The truth of the matter is that just because you have access to the internet, just because the majority of the people that you talk to or that you know have access to the internet and use it for particular purposes, doesn't mean that that's indicative of everyone across the entire country. To this date, the majority of people the majority of the populace in the United States lives outside of major cities.
That just sounds so good, but it's not true. It just sounds. You make it sound like it's actually legitimately correct, and it's not.
It is legitimately correct.
It just isn't. I mean, you're something of a retard if you're not on the internet.
They've congregated most populated
that's probably
cities.
one of the most.
It's like not having water in the house. It's like you don't have running water in the house.
That they're an idiot because they don't have access to a technology that defines a level of intellect.
It's like not having running water in the house.
They even have
Yeah,
access to
but not
internet in
having running
Africa.
water in your house doesn't mean that you're an idiot. Not
This
having
is
running water,
2010.
just you don't have running water in that.
This is
It has nothing to do with
That's,
your
this is
intelligence.
why they give away all those free
That
mobiles.
means
So
your
people
access
have
to the
access
internet.
free laptops and free mobiles to so many people, so they can have access to the internet. They didn't do that in Africa and stuff. That's what the laptops for poor families was about.
Well, and that's what we talked about the other day. But the problem with that is that all it is pure information. And information without the experience that allows you to process it means nothing. So even if you have access to the internet, if you aren't using the information that you can find on it, even if you're finding the information, if you don't know how to utilize that information or process it, it's not doing you any good. So to sit there and say that everyone in this country is an idiot if they don't understand or accept this is just ridiculous, because that implies a number of things. First of all, that they have access to the information. Second of all, that they have the interest to look up the information. And third of all, that they have the capacity to understand and comprehend the information. And by and large, I think that's been proven to not be true, considering how much information is available out there to a huge group of people. The other thing that I think you're missing is that the people that show up to town hall meetings and to political rallies and everything else, or show up to voice their opinion or share their opinion and everything else, first of all, have to have access to it, but second of all, have to have the time to do so. It's one thing to host a town hall meeting to find out what the populace thinks about how you're voting in Congress, but when you host a town hall meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, well, all you're going to get is the people that have the opportunity at 10 o'clock in the morning to show up. And that negates like 60 to 80% of the populace in most locations, because they're working a full-time job that they can't just get up and walk away from at that hour to show up to the town hall meeting. So you have to be very...
You're not allowed to speak at a town hall meeting. I've seen tapes of it. People have just bootleg tape of it, and what really goes on versus what's being shown is a whole other story. They drag you out if you try to speak.
I'm not arguing or discussing that point or anything, but the people that can attend are limited by those people who have the opportunity. And if they're scheduled when a huge group that may be directly impacted do not have the opportunity to attend that meeting or that forum or that discussion or that interaction or whatever else you may want to refer to it as, if they do not have the opportunity because it's scheduled at a time...
What point you're making? You're making some point. I don't know what the point is.
The point is that you're citing that just because the particular poll that you got through some particular site states that something is the case doesn't necessitate that is reality, because you have to look at when the poll was conducted, what the average age, the average education, the average time, and everything else of the people that responded to the poll. If you call in the middle of the day and you're calling housewives who were born after 1985 who have seen Kevin Costner's JFK movie, well then that coordinates your poll into only answering the question in a certain way. You don't know what all the questions were that were asked to generate the results out of that poll. I would venture to say that if you were to walk down the street of your own hometown and ask 100 people if they think the JFK assassination was an element of a conspiracy theory or was a lone person acting by themselves, you would be surprised at the results that you actually get.
I want to get into it, man,
That's all I'm saying, is that you can't cite statistics as being evidence of fact. So
I also have my own experience. How about my own experience?
I'm not negating your experience. I'm just asking you, don't, if you have your own experience that backs something up.
Maggot's not speaking up, but he doesn't believe you either.
Has to believe me. I'm not asking to.
And you can hear the typing in the background.
I was wondering if you're a time traveler at the moment.
Yeah.
No, because most of the population is being moved to the towns and cities. They've been doing that for decades. So I don't know, unless you've got different statistics than I had. That's why I've been led to believe. And that's been going on because the workforce has been concentrated into the towns and cities, and you've got more an office-based workforce and less of a production, industrial-based workforce, especially in America. And a lot of you're an import-based economy. You don't export much.
We don't make anything.
Yeah. In other words, and that's been part of a plan to make you dependent on other countries and reduce your infrastructure, your economic infrastructure. I just thought that was like pretty much well known. We're probably well known in towns. I mean, it must be because they're importing everything all the time, and you don't get all the local produce, even like your groceries and stuff. That's all imported from different towns and cities, and not even that. It's from out the rural areas. But they've been moving people out of there for ages.
But it's like it's like he's trying to justify the position that the world is flat, and like Well,
Yeah.
a certain number of percentage of people believe that frogs live in the sun. I mean, do they? I don't think so. I mean, it's that far gone. And if you do believe things like that, then we're talking about the massively mentally ill. I mean, really. My parents desperately wanted to deny this stuff, but they found that it's impossible because everyone we know believes the opposite.
Yeah, and it's easily accessible as well. It's easy to find information against the New World Order. I mean,
when we were at the Sam's Club, my father was like, shh. When I used Oswald not having killed Kennedy as just a silly example, and he was like, shh. And then I said, everyone believes the opposite. And the guy next to us piped up, yeah, of course. Of course Kennedy was not killed by Oswald. He was killed by anybody else. Everybody else. Not Oswald. The guy was Patsy. There's nobody that seriously, intelligently believes that. It's another one of these lies that were thrown in our face, and we're just supposed to take it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people know bits of like the truth in inverted commas. Like they know, like 911 was an inside job. They know, they think they know who killed JFK, as you're saying, and they think they know this, they think they know that, but they haven't really got the right mindset to join it all together and take action on it. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that David Icke is often quoted is that they say it's got all the pieces of the puzzle. It might not be true, but most people do have bits.
True.
Yeah, that's it. Because most people have tiny little pieces of the puzzle, but their minds aren't actually capable of comprehending the bigger picture. So they know that it's like basically they know something's wrong, sort of something's out there, but they can't actually put their finger on what is actually going on, and that's a deliberate policy as well. Obviously, is because there's so many competing agendas, even though they go under the big depopulation, mass mind control agenda. That is the overall plan. That it's deliberate program of confusion. Because while people are silent, they can carry on as they like. It's like if they're burglars burgling your house using some sort of advanced technology, so that you're invisible, and at the same time as they're burgling your house, you're being distracted. Like they did it when you're at work, and you gradually notice all stuff in your house is going missing. And every time you asked anybody, have you seen, any burglars like running off my goods? And everybody's like, no. Because they're using a form of like technology that they're not aware of. You end up like with an empty house, and you don't know why. Yeah. It's that sort of like cloak and dagger, basically, cloak and dagger deception.
The real brainwashing is when you hear somebody aggressively defend an obvious lie and pretend that it's the normal position.
I know, and then they'll go back to the beginning of their argument. It's a way
they can't be convinced.
Yeah. So classic symptoms of brainwashing and stuff.
Right, when evidence doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've seen that a few times.
Yeah.
And then, but how they defend it is they believe that it's the majority opinion, even when you find all the evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, it's because their end's mindset where that has to be the truth, because they can't advance their brain basically to the next level. They can't. They're in one compartment. They can't move to the compartment above, which is one that's contains access to multiple compartments below. It's like a hierarchical structure in your own brain. Really, they'll just go from little thing to little thing. Oh, food's really expensive today, and price of oil really expensive today, and but it was cheaper 3 months ago, and they say on the news it's going to be cheaper sometime later, so that's okay. I'll forget about that one.
Green shoots. They believe the economy's coming back.
That's it. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean the economy is just a tool that they use. They can inflate the economy as much as they like because it's built on nothing. It's built on promises.
Yeah, and estimations and.
It's like a day after we did that show, I said sorry to disappoint you, but our economy seems to be recovering. I saw newspaper headlines, and by complete coincidence, it's like economy on the way to recovery, or economy is recovering. Yeah, and
it's like when you're sitting in traffic and other cars are moving around you, you believe that your car is moving. So people look at that peripheral vision that they see, and the media provides that falsehood to you.
I see.
If you have the TV on at all, you believe that everyone thinks this way because they present it as if everyone but you knows the answer, and this lie is the answer. So you use that as your peripheral vision, and you think your car is moving.
Yeah.
But it's not.
So, even though nothing's happening, you think something is happening because the news is telling you so. Yeah, it's like I was saying, they can just like boom and bust economies. Pretty much
by not having my television hooked up anymore, I feel 100% less brainwashed. I never come to these false conclusions because I actually talk to actual people, and I just watch the stuff I download.
Yeah. Because I thought it was quite funny me saying that, because we've got the general elections coming up, and I was thinking, well, if I mention that, because like the economy, I know about the economy, and they're always like, oh, the economy's recovering, it's on route to recovery, green shoots, blah 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 blah. I was thinking, if I mention that, let's see what it does to like the general election, because that's going to screw things up. Because I reckon people go back to voting for Gordon Brown Eye.
I mean, in Cincinnati, black people told me Obama was a fraud. This one guy explained the detail of Zbigniew Brzezinski to me, and I was told that all black people were going to support Obama. I mean, it's not even close.
All black feel betrayed. They should feel betrayed by Obama.
The last thing you'd want is the first of your group to get into a position and then burn the White House down, or be caught, pissing out the front door. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, just turn out to be a total clown. Yeah.
Right. I mean, then they'll blame you. They'll say, "Look, we put one of your people in, and look what they did." And now we could never put another one of your people in again. Yeah. I mean, there's so many responsible, qualified black people you can put in office, and then they put this guy, the puppet of Zbigniew Brzezinski, in.
Yeah. They thought they voted in like a black, like I don't know, Malcolm X or something, and they ended up with the Fresh Fresh Prince Bel-Air.
Yeah. That's really sad.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we're going to do if we have to sit there and tolerate and baby people who live in falsehood and lies.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
I know, and even in this country, well, Gordon Brown always gets like loads of stick, and his policies are a disaster, and this and that and the other, and that's what the campaign at the moment is against him. It's like, I don't know, I let 80,000 people out of prison early, vote for me and I'll do it again, is the Conservatives one against him, and I don't know, he's taken out more money in spending than like any other comparable time or something like that. But I wonder how important that's going to be when they start saying, oh, the economy's definitely recovering now, and they start offering people jobs. I think that's what people are more concerned with than anything else, is just their job. As long as they can keep their job, they don't really care about anything else. All this like fancy mind control and, oh, did the government do this, did the government do that, doesn't really matter, I need to feed myself, and I've got kids to look after, and the mortgage on the house, and all this stuff's real, stuff is just all just like sort of hearsay, fanciful talk, it's not nothing, it won't pay my bills.
Right, they sped everything up trying to do that, but then at the same time they're slowing things down, so it's not working.
I mean, because I reckon if they do vote in Gordon Brown, well, in the UK they can pretty much generate jobs. I think that's how they determine if the economy is improving. Anyway, is like by the amount of new jobs that are generated, and the amount of businesses that are opening. Because I've noticed the businesses opening in town as well now. So I think it's an old story. They've done it before, but I expect it will just suddenly swing in his favour, and everybody will be like, "Oh, we forgive him." He's not as bad as the others. Who knows? It'd be a total swing around though, because before everybody was going, it seemed to be like swinging towards the Liberal Democrats. I haven't really studied them much, but they seem to be a totally like gimmicky party that people just turn to just to wind up the establishment, even though obviously they're all part of the establishment.
Well, now none of your leaders actually are have any power. It's all the Lisbon Treaty's been signed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're rubber stamping whatever Brussels does. And then the ones that still wanted to fight back have joined Common Purpose, so that's the end of that. That's NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming.
They're also advertising HDTV. Buy HDTV, and then you can watch the General Elections Conference in HD in high definition. Oh, you really want that? But I bet it's shifting. There's enough people that want to believe, because politics is the drama. That's all it is. You're paying your tax money to see a bunch of actors carry out a play. So it's really how much people want to see the drama, how much they want to fall for it. You know, if they really get into the policies. But if he does that, if they carries it out, will he really carry out his policy? And it's like, it doesn't really make a damn bit of difference.
The answer's no.
Even if he does, he'll go renegade on it after 3 months or whatever, because like downturn in the economy, terrorist threats, whatever. It is. They're sort of paying for promises from known liars, so it's really, they got no to blame of themselves, really. But then again, you know, the average person doesn't really have much choice, and they always feel like gutted if they don't vote, so they feel quite compelled to go to the polling station and vote, even though it's really a waste of time.
I don't know. They have that fundamental hypocrisy in America where it's okay if my party does it, but it's not okay when the other party does it. Actually, it starts the other way around. People were upset when Bush did certain things. Now that Obama's done identically the same thing, it's okay now.
Exactly.
Or we won't see it. We won't see it when he does it because he's the god.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing we've got. It's the face that's important. It's who it said it and who did it. That was often the case, even in the 80s in the UK, because you'd have Neil Kinnock or something would suggest something, and they'd argue about it on the other side, at him, and then Conservatives get back in, and then they start adopting some of his policies, adopting Labour policies. Nothing in politics is new. None of the tricks they use are new. They just use them again and again and again. If we had records of stuff they did in Roman times, it'd be the same thing. I think they had a token political unit in the Roman Empire, didn't they? Just a front. But they already had the Senate anyway. But voting's always been totally twisted and corrupted.
I don't know. We have to fight back in every possible way, including the Freeman methods. We have to fight back in every way. And they always want to tell you that there's no way to fight back. And that in America they had this great charge of conspiracy. So you just talked about it. So we're not even allowed to advocate for fixing the problem, or that's a crime in itself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the opinion they're sort of lethargic about politics now. Is they sort of they know the David Icke line of it doesn't matter who you vote in, they just sort of same thing sorts happens anyway. Because, what stuff he says, a lot of it does echo popular opinion. Unfortunately, a lot of it's defeatist as well, That's always the case, though, it's it tells us the problems, but, it's no real solution.
But I think people are also bitterly angry about the loss of the Tea Party concept, even though I knew it was going to be a failure, because the Tea Party in the first place is a failure. I mean, it's the wrong protest by the wrong people. Yeah,
you're losing your right to protest, sort of thing.
Yeah, they're taking away.
Yeah, because even if it's total sham, then they still like the idea of being able to go around with banners saying what they want, even if nobody actually films it.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to bring certain banners to it, such as 9/11's inside job.
Yeah.
Which is false. Well, here we are at the hour. If you want to talk to us, call us at Keep Truth Free on Skype. This is American Freeman on the American Freeman Radio Network. And we have ground to a halt.
I think Don Perry's died of a heart attack.
Yeah, his feelings are hurt. He won't talk to us now because he's wrong.
Yeah, they call it sedition now, aren't they? I think I was on the previous show. Yeah, sedition is where you say stuff that's anti-government, and you have it written.
They're anti-government. If they were pro-government, they'd want your government to succeed, but they've just handed it off to Brussels.
Yeah. But now but sedition is like any declaration that's anti-government, in writing.
Yeah.
I think that's the definition that they're using. Yeah. So yeah, the right to protest has been eaten away at the same time as the will to protest has been eaten away.
Right. Well, should we humor Don and pretend that 9/11 was done by terrorists?
And everybody lives in the countryside.
Yeah.
With Superman. In
no one is
huge
informed in
cornfields.
America. He won't talk to us now.
No, sulking. I think David Ray said he was going to be on or something, didn't he? For last hour.
Okay, we'll call David Ray.
He's not online at the moment.
No.
No,
Nope.
got to seek the truth. Iconoclast Radio.
Might be able to reach him. Iconoclast is might be available.
Yeah, it says he's online now.
Now he is.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that guy?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. What's going on, guys?
We're talking about mind control.
Mind control?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite subjects.
Well, we have
Yeah.
Don, and he's mind controlled. He believes that no one in America is informed, and
They all live in the countryside by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and everyone believes that Oswald killed Kennedy.
No one has the internet access in America.
Yes. So that's just mind control right there.
Well, Oswald was very intelligent, and no one really knows that. They look at him. They like to call him the patsy, but if you ever heard that guy speak, I mean, this guy was speaking basically on our level, man. He was really well informed. I don't know what his job or task was. I don't know what he was handing out for the most part, but I guess they picked the wrong one if anyone went and seen what really went down. There's a lot of stuff about that, but yeah, mind control.
We covered a whole lot of things, yeah, in the first 2 hours. My voice sounds a bit diesel.
Yeah, hear an echo.
Yeah.
And we tried to cover Kathy O'Brien a little bit.
Give me 1 second. Let me try to get to an area where I won't have so much.
Oh, he's off for a bit.
Hmm?
He's off for a bit.
Oh, is he?
Well, yeah, he's just reconnecting in a second. Uh-huh.
I really just need more naps.
I need sleep. It's just ridiculous. I'm up at like 6:45 in the morning. Come back from work and go on straight to this 3-hour show. I haven't watched it. It's like 8:10 in the afternoon or evening.
Oh yeah, I should look at my world phone.
It's an endurance test for me.
Yeah, it is 8 p.m.
Okay, so what's
Yeah.
up?
I don't know. We feel very mind controlled.
Where's Donna?
He's on. He's sulking because he's wrong.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's-
so he thinks that people are not mind controlled.
Yeah. No. He's actually defending the position of the mind controlled, as if no one knows about what we're talking about, and it's commonplace to believe that Oswald did kill Kennedy, and all the other things.
Yeah, and people just don't have access to the internet anywhere in America.
Yeah.
Where is the
Can't find
proof?
those things.
Where's the proof that?
I found the Gallup poll. What was it? 81% of people believe that Oswald did not kill Kennedy.
Okay, has anyone? One of the best books I've read is the one on that was put out by Michael Collins Piper, the book about who killed Kennedy, where he proves that there were many Jewish connections, and of course, no one got the actual hitman. I guess they think they do, but it's just crazy, man. What's going on here on planet Earth that people tolerate this kind of stuff? I mean, I mean, listen, man, I guess I could say I come from people with good morals, but at the same time, I mean, I don't want to say no one else did, but what is the excuse for tolerating this kind of stuff?
Yeah, we were talking about that too. Not putting up with it.
Yeah, I mean, and then all of a sudden, you know what's crazy? Is that you live in a world where, I guess we're extreme. Get the fuck...
Yeah, no, we're reasonable, and extreme is to go along with stuff and let yourself be carried away.
It's crazy though, man. It's really weird.
I mean, in the Kennedy situation, it wasn't really who killed him as much as who turned the security off. I mean, they sent Fletcher Prouty to Antarctica. You can see there were 10 cameras going during the Kennedy thing, and you can see second floor windows are open. I mean, that would never be allowed if Fletcher Prouty was there. Anybody could have shot from any of the windows.
It was just crazy, man. Yeah. I mean, if you look at all the Kennedy stuff, and you know what's kind of... Now, this is what I was talking about on my show with DJ Chronic, African DJ. What we were talking about was, that people, they keep on buying these kind of scenarios here, man. I mean, think about it. Look at how many things that people have seen on television. I was telling him that television is psychologically crafted. I mean, they have some of the smartest, wittiest, most intelligent minds directing that stuff. And it's all so psychological. That's what I was trying to stress to people, and this leads into mind control, man. Everything, the 21st century is psychological sophistication and manipulation. And we're getting it on a daily, but I remember when I seen all of the different scenarios with the Kennedy assassination, and every one of them seems so plausible, right? But then when you get to people like the gentleman, the school teacher that put out JFK 2, The Bush Connection, when you check out that one, and then you check out Michael Collins Piper's book, I forget what it's called. Have any of you read it?
I haven't read that one.
Oh man, I'll try to look for it here in a little bit. But Michael Collins Piper, he put out a good book on the Kennedy assassination. I'll look for it in a second. But anyway, you know who's really good at this? Is that CBS News show, 48 Hours? Now, even the best of us, which I would consider myself, even the best of us, when you watch one of these, because that is something that I would sometimes sit through. I don't watch them too much, but I would tune into one still. But I noticed that they're very good at making you think, and this is all to get you doubting everything and to think that only them, the most sophisticated minds, know what's best. Watch an episode of 48 Hours Mysteries where they do the investigation, and they'll give you all this evidence that proves it's this one person. Well, they don't say it's them yet. They just keep on showing you all the evidence that leads to this person. You're like, yep, it's that person. We've got all this evidence on them. And at the very end, they'll say, but look, it was this person over here. And so,
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You say murder mysteries.
Yeah, they're playing with you so well here. Yeah. And if you're not good enough, it's like reading Ayn Rand's book, what was it called? Atlas Shrugged. It's a very boring read, but in it is all kinds of philosophies and truth. But yeah, go ahead. I'm rambling on here. I don't want to sound like Alex Jones.
No, it's fine. I was saying it's the same tactic they use in murder mystery films, like the old Agatha Christie ones.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they'll direct your attention to one person who's a suspicious character. You know, like he's like always got something in his pockets, or he's always shifty, or he's always got something suspicious about him. But he's not actually the person who did it. The person who did it is somebody you hardly ever see. You know, you might see him for like about 20 frames of the whole movie. It's exactly the same technique they're using there. But that's also mirrors reality as well. It's not. They often put out somebody right in your face who you think is going to be. Oh, it's obviously him. He's obviously mad or whatever. You know, he obviously did it, and he's just been put out there as a stooge or whatever, a decoy.
Yeah, that's true. And now we've got the Hataris. I mean, if you look at the Hataris, if you get a mugshot of all these people, they look just like the Publisher Clearinghouse sweepstakes winners. I mean, they don't look like they could carry. Now, could they have said something stupid? Could someone have convinced them? They look like they were mentally ill. Like they're definitely afflicted some kind of way. I mean, you know, so what group is doing it? This crazy group. Now, can they be out there? Well, I got to say this. There could possibly be crazy groups out there. Because if you've ever seen that guy Stuart Best's work, Stuart Best, some of you conspiracy people, it really would not behoove you to go look at this filthy, vile kookiness. But if you could get someone, when someone sent me a Stuart Best tape, when I actually seen that someone paid attention to that stuff, I was like, whoa, there are some fruity people out here. So there are kooks. It is could be possible that, you know, could it be, I guess, I don't know enough about the Hatari situation. You know, supposedly, it has some kind of connection. And I don't know about all this because really, quite frankly, it's like Days of Our Lives, Hatari drama. No, I want to tune into World Bank. I'll save the Hatari drama for someone else.
Well, Stuart Best is 100% wrong.
Stuart Best, I mean, the devil can give you a little bit of truth.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The devil can give you truth. Anyone, check it out. Anyone, a David Icke, you know what I mean? Now, is David Icke guilty? He's as guilty. David Icke is a little bit more guilty than a car salesman, because one of the most vile people I've ever ran into working at a car dealership is a conscienceless, and I don't want to say all of them, but all of them, yes, every last one of them. I don't care, especially if they're off to church on Sunday. This is a vile individual, a car dealer, because I know, man, that I don't have time to take you through the psychological tricks and traps about how much they're going to do to you and for you, and what a great deal you're going to get.
Yeah.
That is total bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And you're left on the hook, man. And some of these car dealerships, I mean, I think we've talked about it before on the show, where you know you get so bent over the barrel that you can't even go trade your car in because you just got way too bad. And some of these are fly-by-night organizations. They just come in for like a year or two and just get you all hooked up and then disappear. So I don't have any respect. But is David Icke more guilty than one of these guys? I would say a little bit more, just a tad, because he's dealing with more important information. You know, and it's very dangerous. He's got a lot of different cult groups he's got going on out there. A lot of different ones.
Yeah. You're talking about how he starts off and he sounds like quite grounded. He's talking about politics and stuff that people can like relate to, get into, and you know he'll go on about this and that, and everybody's like, yeah, he's not mad, he's not totally mad. Yeah, he seems to be right. And then he's like basically takes you down the rabbit hole into Wonderland, or whatever, and you start introducing the reptilian shapeshifters.
Well, is he guilty? I think David Icke is a very intelligent guy. He could be a nut himself. He did say he was Jesus. So he could just.
He took ayahuasca. That's a common side effect of taking that stupid drug. He went to South America and took it. Other people have gone down there and done it too, and they come back saying that they're Jesus too. They have this. That's what the drug does to you. But you got to think about if you watch me sitting there making brownies that we're going to eat, and I then go over to the cat box and get a small piece of cat shit and put it in there. So it's just 2% cat shit. Are you going to eat that?
Hell no. That's why I don't tune into David Icke.
Yeah.
You know, only thing I do to David Icke is study him like I would study, anybody else. I mean, David Icke, I wrapped him up. He's dangerous, man. That guy is dangerous because think about an individual that either he's a complete nut or someone that would sell you all that stuff that is really, think about an individual that would bring Maggotaur up there for you to listen to for all them hours. Can you think about that guy lacks serious integrity, and I'm not joking around about that. Think about it. Who does that, dude? You mean to tell me that people give you and support you so much that you have a lifestyle of luxury and flying around here, there, and everywhere, and this is the way you repay them by giving them this kookiness?
Yeah, it's bullshit as well. Everything he says, pretty much well.
Ah.
It's really stupid contrick as well. It's like, I am from the far foreign land, and so you believe everything I say when I talk about my country. He's just using that sort of number on you. He's using like the foreignness, and he's like, oh, I'm the last surviving Zulu shaman. Prove it. He's bisexual as well. If you watch the whole video,
it's at the end. You're so disappointed at the end.
He starts trying to neck David Icke.
Yeah. But I was watching Scotland Yard, right? It was on like the IFC channel or something, like a documentary channel that came on digital. And anyway, so I was watching it, and they were talking about these Africans in London. They were having all these different. They were finding body parts of all these different people showing up all over the place, and they wrapped it up that it had to be some of the Africans that might. What did they do? They went to Maggotaur to find out more about it. I mean, right on regular mainstream television. I'm not joking, man. This was about 4 or 5 years ago.
What do you know about it? This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, but I couldn't believe it.
So we travelled over to Africa to speak to an old fat bisexual. It's just bizarre. I heard he got educated in somewhere in England as well, Maggotaur, and it's all just a big sham. That's why he speaks English so well.
Yeah, he made very sophisticated American jokes at the end of the movie, also.
Well, I'll tell you what, I observed from the very beginning. That he is a pathological liar, but extremely intelligent. This man is definitely not slow by any means. No. Extremely intelligent. But not to be trusted.
It showed a facility with the English language that he wasn't displaying at the beginning.
Yeah, he uses a lot of the same tactics that you forget Nigerian scam artists. He starts off like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Icke, I have something very distressing to tell you. Please." And another time it's like, "Please, lady, I do not wish to speak about this, but I feel that for my people's sake, I must." And he'll just like really sort of like try and lure you in. So there's like you're kind of like thinking almost like, "Get on with it, creepy old fart." He was Maggotaur was interviewed on some radio station. He was like calling her "sweet lady." I can tell you're a sweet lady. It was just total con artistry. Sort of embarrassing to listen to, so that people would actually fall for that crap. Because if he was at your door, like trying to offer you carpets or something for sale, you'd just like see through it like straight away. But he's offering you this like really kooky story about his special land, and everything's different there, and only he knows the secret. Only he knows what's going on, and all these horrors, the horrors are so great. What? Took about an hour saying this story about somebody in his house or something killed somebody else in his house, but he's like bleeding them in for about 20 minutes. It was just ridiculous.
And David Icke is another one just like this Alex Jones. The first DVD that someone hands you,
Yeah.
Very, very dangerous stuff, man. Very dangerous.
I'll just have a little look and see if I can find the Creed Maggotaur interview. Yeah, because he's only done that one interview with David Icke, and he did one other that I know of.
David Icke's been on several times. But
And let me tell you,
Oh yeah, with Credo Maggotaur. Yeah, they're on at the same time, aren't they?
now let me tell you another thing. We talked about Estradius and I talked about how the Prophecy Club, whether they're good or not, he comes to the mindset that Stan is just there to tell you, let the guy speak, and then at the end he gives you a little bit about Jesus. But when you look at the bizarre stuff that comes through the Prophecy Club, and then every background, they always have that background, like you can't avoid it. Prophecy Club. It's like to put a label on you, man, and it's no doubt that it's Zionist based. I have absolutely no doubt. And the last 3 digits of their zip code is 666. And then I called them up and I asked them why did they put this kind of stuff on, and they could never give me a straight answer, man. Never give me a straight answer. And I was calling up about Bill Sneblin, the guy that every time you turn around, he's done something different. And man, can you imagine the sick mind?
He's like a comedian, isn't he? Or a comedian.
Documentary. What's the exposing?
That's the guy that got a party every time he did something wrong.
Look,
another welcome party. He joined the next terrible group, and he got another party.
And you know what else is very sophisticated about this? This guy is the same one that they used behind the Jeremiah films, the Bill Clinton, the new Chronicles, the Clinton Chronicles, and all those, the ones who put out the Clinton Chronicles, the real story about Vincent Foster. Guess what?
They also put out the Godmakers too.
Yeah, they put out all the religious ones also, but they had some really good.
That exposes the Mormons.
Yeah, the Godmakers, that was good. They got quite a few ones on the Mormons. The rest of their work overall is too weak and watered down and a waste of time. But check it out. They put out the Clinton Chronicles, right?
Yeah.
But what they're like Republican based or something. They're only interested in pushing a conservative agenda, which I have no problem with because I'm conservative. But I don't like it to be one-sided. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's too much like just.
It shouldn't be just cheerleading for one side. I mean, if there is a problem on the other side, you have to, on your own side, you want to expose that too.
Yeah, well, I called them up and I asked them when are we going to get the Bush Chronicles, and I called them up about 4 or 5 times. And next time, matter of fact, we should call them up on my show one day because I should ask them. You know, now maybe we should ask for the Obama Chronicles. You know, they might be willing to do that, but anyway. Just everywhere around the board, my argument with most people are, and do I have a valid argument? I would have to say so. You know, I just don't think people are getting enough of the truth.
And what's more important is also consistency. Like you were saying, that if you're going to expose one, you have to expose the other, especially when they're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay when someone from my group does. I mean, I've disavowed both groups now.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I hope more and more people get involved with the American Freemans. I hope that we can, get this thing rocking and rolling, man. Because it's very important that we do. Because how can you? You know, this is one of the ways we can do it because we don't have to do anything violently or aggressively.
Walk into their court, stuff like that. But what's a bad thing is that there have been a lot of previous movements like this, and they have really messed you up.
Yeah, there's a guy that I don't know a lot about him, but he is interesting. He is intelligent. His name is David Wynn Miller. Shortly, because I haven't checked into him for many years, but most people that had close contact with him walked away feeling like they had gotten bent over the barrel some kind of way, like it wasn't working. But I don't know if he was a Freeman or not, but he did use a lot of law tactics, probably from within the court.
Well, no, I'm saying there's a lot of people who've come up with this, and they're not connected to this particular movement. There's Winston Shrout, who I've never made it through without falling asleep. There's But there are other systems of this, and it's very similar because to come up with this system, all you have to do is look it up. But it's very hard for people to read through this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I met a guy in Barbados who was shocked to find out about this because first I was just talking to him about it, and he's dead on, and he'd never heard of this. I mean, he'd never heard of this particular movement, the American Freeman thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed he was dead on.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it until James had informed me about it. I've heard, like you said, the other movements I didn't really pay much mind to because, like you said, I could see that we just wasn't getting anything done. But with this one, you get it's immediate. It's immediate. You know what I mean? Like you said, it stops the bleeding.
Yeah, I was looking into a bunch of them, and I was really frightened that if I didn't cross a T correctly, or something like that, you didn't dot an I, now you're going to prison. I mean, I don't want to do that. It's too much pressure.
If it were possible, would you not call it a movement? Because a movement indicates something that starts in one place, travels a certain period of time and direction, and then stops.
A restoration? I don't know.
Restoration works fine, a revolution works fine. Anything that indicates a constant having to go back through, and a constant movement a constant motion is fine. But to limit it to a movement just indicates that it only has to progress for a certain amount of time. And I think a study of the history of what's gone on with governments indicates that it can't just be a movement because. Like the Magna Carta was the result of a movement. The Constitution was the result of a movement, ultimately, but that it wasn't perpetuated, and that's why we constantly fall back into tyranny. Because so much emphasis is given onto the movement, and once the movement has achieved the movement's goal, it stops moving anymore. It's got to constantly keep moving if it's going to always check and confront tyranny wherever it pops up.
Yeah, I don't want to be compared to the people that wanted to run into court and scream "Fringe" in the flag.
Well, I don't think any of us who are accurate members of the society want to be those people. We don't want to be the ones that run and say, "It's my right to not have to." It's this is an admiralty court and you can't have no. Because, but a revolution doesn't define pulling out guns or pulling out your absolute ammunition, whether it be rhetoric or anything else, and automatically slinging it first. But I think to claim it as a movement means that it only has to progress so far and that it has to end. Well, all that indicates is that there has to be another movement that has to pick itself up off of its own feet and build upon past movements once tyranny sets in. So why even allow tyranny to set in? Right. Why not utilize this as an opportunity to totally reconstruct the way that laws are applied in this country? And to do so would be a radical revolution to what's currently going on. Doesn't mean we've got to pull guns on people. Doesn't mean we have to be violent about it.
Make sure you do it to us.
Oh, David put a happening. I think he means a truth. You could call it a truth happening. But yeah, I suppose you could call it truth science, because science is something that's like you can validate individually and verify, rather than a movement. It's just like a movement, like a swelling in the ground or something. So I suppose you could call it truth science. It's not, don't get hung up on definitions, so it's not really what it's about.
I've been amazed at the lack of opposition when people call them the teabaggers. People really knew what that meant.
Actually, there's a huge wave of opposition.
To that?
There actually really is. There's a huge wave of opposition, but, of course, if you don't pay attention to it.
How about truth? Okay, how about truthy truth? Truthy truth. He's saying science is better, but he still doesn't hit it. Just call it the truth. The truth.
I hate the marketing terms. I don't like any marketing
terms.
Yeah,
it's none of them's going to hit it. None of them's going to hit it. If there was some phrase that's going to radically reorganise everybody's brain that's heard the phrase and it had already been used.
Because I have myself so blocked off from advertising anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to sell yourself, call yourself like a truth scientist or a conspiracy factualist, or it's like those sort of people. They're difficult, difficult to get on with. Anyway, they're not going to be like, oh, I hated it first. But yeah, which one?
I like the conspiracy factualists. I mean, that's right up my alley because I'm all about the knowing. But see, people get, they keep on thinking, well, I must be a Gnostic. It's nothing like that, man. It's like, I know there's a creator. I can't really describe the creator. I just don't think I have enough intelligence or intel to do it, man. Not at this particular point. I mean, do I know he's there? I mean, giving thanks and for life and whatnot. That's all good with me. So I ain't got no problem with that. But I don't know. Just man, what the fuck we gonna do with the human race now? We gotta do something about this.
Why do we have to do something about it?
We have to do something about it.
Yeah, what can't we make a better world?
That right there indicates that we think we have some kind of an elitist status that means to do something about it. Just to say that.
They think they have an elitist status, and we all need to be free.
I think there's some responsibility as far as like the world. I mean, you don't think that we can do a whole lot better job, man. I mean, you don't see that.
I don't think I have power or authority or capacity to do quote-unquote a better job. All I have to do is be responsible for myself. Period. I have zero responsibility for how anyone else acts or operates or anything else. Period. Because the instant I accept responsibility or take responsibility for their actions, I'm indicating that no one else can be free until I'm in complete freedom.
Well, you're going to live in a society, aren't you? You're going to live in a society, aren't you?
Not if that society is detrimental to the process of being a free human being.
Well, no, I mean, we all get together so that we can have a road to drive down the road, so we're not like horse and bugging it through some potholes and shit, you know what I mean?
I would ask how you're defining the term society. Are you using society to refer to a group of people existing in a geographic location, or are you using it as the term to refer to a group of people who exist by mutual consent?
By mutual consent, like everyone has agreed that it isn't like the government now that gets nothing done. You know what I mean? Like, think about it, dude. If you really think about it, I mean. You could take that one show, right? What the fuck's it called? The one where every episode they're trying to pull a tear out of your eye, where they're building someone a new home, house makeover or some shit, whatever it is.
Street Makeover Home Edition.
Okay, well, think about how fast they put up one of these things, right?
5 days.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, shit can get done if individuals take all the I like how Anthony Hilder was using Cut the Cancer Out. I started that one, at least I think I did, a couple years through. But Alex Jones is using it. I heard Anthony Hilder using it. But yeah, if we could just cut the cancer out of what's going on, we can get some shit done.
It's kind of metastasized,
Okay, and while I agree with the idea that if we can remove cancer, we can get stuff done, but you can't just cut cancer out. I mean, have you read Eustace Mullins' book on the healthcare industry and how it's been perpetuated? Do you have any idea who Dr. Totoli is that operates down in Florida and his cancer treatment things? I mean, you can't just cut cancer out. You have to get to the root cause of
my father does chemosurgery. He cuts the cancer out of people's skin, and it goes, and then they check and see if it's still there, and it's gone. He's one of the few people that does it. He's called chemosurgery.
That's awesome.
He cuts the cancer out.
Well, and there are cases in which it actually works and is applicable, and there are cases in which it doesn't work whatsoever.
No, you're right.
For example, prostate cancer. If somebody gets prostate cancer, 10 years ago, your insurance company would only cover if you had your prostate actually removed, which was a $30,000 surgery. Well, at the same time, Totoli down in Florida did tiny little seed implants that created a small dose of radiation that would kill the cancer within the prostate and allow you to continue to have the prostate, and it was a $2,000 surgery, but insurance wouldn't cover it. Why insurance would cover a $30,000 surgery and not a $2,000 surgery?
Because we live in a world of conspiracy, and they want you to be sick.
Well, sure,
That's
of
not
course.
what we're talking about the literal of cancer. We're talking about a metaphor.
And I understand that, but what I'm trying to get to is that just because the idea is to cut it out and that's going to extricate it, it doesn't get rid of it. You have to tap into the seed root of why that cancer exists.
Well, okay, this would be a good time, since we're talking about the actual cancer. This would be a good time. This is someone I'm going to get up on my show as soon as I can find out how to get in contact with him. He's been basically almost wiped off the map. He's been destroyed. If you go to my YouTube site or if you go on Google Video, you'll find Dr. Sam Chichoa shattering the myth of incurable disease. Dr. Sam Chichoa, you can find the video I got up there. I'm the only person with a living copy willing to share it with the world. So I wish somebody would support me around here. And so, anyway, check out what he says about cancer. He says, basically, I don't want to blow it for you, but it's very interesting. Other than that, civilization engineering. Check that out, too, as far as how to create a different civilization and also societies. But, yeah, it's not that hard, man. It's just like cancer. We've been lied to about it. You know what I mean? We got to go get the homework, look at it, and then come back and realize what's going on. But, cancer, it's just a metaphor. We can do it, though. The main thing is, once again, Don, this is what I'm going to stop doing, is everyone wants to say when it's time to get the job, going, they always got this big excuse why it's not getting done. And that's what I'm sick of. We're going to get it done. This stuff about it's too overwhelming, that shit does not work around here. I know we can get it done. I'm a living example of what can be done.
I agree with you totally. I didn't mean to cut you off and just stop you from talking. I was just
no, I would just, but I definitely just want to let it be known that we can get something done. Think about this, man. If you look at the annual comprehensive financial report, these people have tons of money. They don't need any more of ours. It's just to keep you down. Right. Same thing Anthony Hilder was talking about with the drugs. They just have the drugs to keep you down. They don't need the drugs to sell them for the money. They print it. And if you look at the drug connections, of course you really do have a connection once again to the Jews. Like, let me give you another prime example. There's a movie called Cocaine Cowboys, or kind of like a documentary. It's a documentary called Cocaine Cowboys. Think about this. It's a Colombian drug cartel, and it's based on the movie Scarface, and it's covering all the drugs, but guess what? In the real, true, factual story of all this, Max Mermelstein. And he's this hidden Jewish guy that's at the top next to the female godfatheress or goddess, whatever you want to call her. She is hand in hand with him, but no one knows. They see Max because he's there. And who is Max? Max is the one orchestrating for the Jews. If you want my personal, I don't have enough intel, but once again, if you study this Jew thing, once again, they never get blamed. It's always the Colombians. It's always the Peruvians. It's always the Panamanians. It's always this one. It's this one and that one. It's the Italians. You know what I mean? It's everybody but them. And then when you find out, check it out. It's called Cocaine Cowboy. There's this one Jewish guy that ends up under. He's the only one out the whole bunch that supposedly goes under the witness protection program. What the fuck does that mean?
Witness protection program? It means he was willing to sell out a bunch of people to never be implicated.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, Chekhov just let 60
him from selling out. They protected him for selling out everyone implicated in the deal except those actually responsible.
But here's the other thing. They would have not known anything unless Max Mermelstein told them everything.
Well, that's a Jewish name, isn't it?
Well, of course he's Jewish. They got a picture of him also. But my point is, it's this Jewish guy that is at the top of this whole Scarface deal. But during the whole documentary, they talk about everything but this guy.
Sure, of course. Because why would you want to implicate or put anyone into a position that can be implicated?
And you know what the interesting thing about this documentary is? It's called Cocaine Cowboy. The producers
found links to it on Google Video and YouTube. So.
Okay, look at it's produced by Jews, and once again, I think it was a bragging movie because they're intoxicated with their so-called greatness, and so they were bragging amongst themselves that look, we're the ones behind the whole fucking sham. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
And while we're talking about Jewish greatness, I want to talk about this one scientist out of. He's on there. If you look at genetics, it's on Google Video. He's talking about genetics, and he's talking about how superior Jews are. But he goes into his slide presentation for 15 minutes without even realizing he doesn't have his projector on. So I guess they're really not as intelligent as they think they are.
Fair enough. Okay. I haven't seen that, but would love to. Apparently we've lost Paul from Iconoclast, unfortunately. Just as he was continuing to share some great information with us. Hopefully we can get him back here before the end of the hour, because we definitely want to follow up on his thought process there. Lenny, any thoughts or comments on what Paul was just talking about? Have you?
Just walking back over. Yeah, I'm with him on that.
Okay. Paul, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, sorry we lost you there real quick. We wound up cutting you off mid-sentence. Go ahead and continue with what you were saying.
No, I was actually done.
Okay. Fair enough. So, the exposure done on the whole thing was done by a Jew who was never mentioned in the documentary or given that level of credence to the documentary because the documentary is produced by Jewish elements, right?
Well, my assessment, what I walked away with, is that they wanted to brag about all the interesting facts that was going down about it. And I'm going to actually call these people up and try to get them on my show. Just ain't got around to it yet. But the thing is that it looked to me like just a piece that was done to brag.
Well, you take a look at some of the things that are presented out there, especially in mainstream media, and it seems that a lot of them are presented as nothing more than a bragging element that they managed to get away with things.
Yeah.
And they're done in such a way as to diffuse the element of their bragging, while if you know where to look for the elements, they exist. The Masons do it through the entertainment industry constantly. The whole conspiracy does it through all forms of entertainment and news media and everything constantly. They brag about the way that they've pulled things off and gotten away with things, so I don't see why it wouldn't be applicable in the drug cartel war by itself, which in and of itself is ridiculous, because I think most of us are aware that the CIA and the FBI bring in the drugs through Jewish-run sources to be able to create an atmosphere to declare war against. If I'm wrong, please somebody say something and they'll let me know.
What I found out about the FBI is they don't really give a shit about you unless you're a threat to somebody's finances or
yeah.
You're a threat to their business or corporation. Now they're looking at you heavily or if they look at you as a threat if you somehow could actually change public opinion, like say with the case with John Lennon or someone that was getting politically active, or say like a Tupac. I mean, if Tupac was talking about 9/11 right now, shit, it would be over with. And that's no joke. That sounds kind of, like crazy talk, but I'm telling you, if Tupac was if Tupac was saying 9/11's an inside job, if Tupac was a Freeman, it would be a wrap.
Well, yeah, of course, and they've got to destroy these people before they have the opportunity to share anything, because of their level of being able to influence people. I'm reading a fantastic book right now called Ultimate Sacrifice that is a result of 17 years of research by a couple authors going through all kinds of documents from the CIA, the FBI, the Warren Commission, all these other different commissions that have looked into assassination attempts and the JFK assassination and all the declassified stuff. And they draw an awful lot of conjectures based out of what they can evidence. But one of the main things that they continue working through it is this vast element that the people that knew have continuously been removed as quickly as possible from being able to speak to any kind of a media outlet. And that the FBI and the CIA coordinations among all of this are so incredibly vast, and that's why within 4 to 12 years from JFK's assassination, 15 to 30 individuals that were part of elements of the JFK's assassination or the assassination attempts against Castro and everything else were eliminated and killed under unconfirmed circumstances. Because, like you referenced, as soon as somebody hits a point where they know more information that they want given out, they become a liability to him.
Oh.
Lenny, were you snoring again?
No.
Just checking.
Just what you want to do is see through the lies and not tolerate the garbage and yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? See
Sure.
through the deception.
Exactly, and that's why it's the bursting bubbles of government deception. That's why it's the magnificent deception. That's why Satan is referred to as the great deceiver.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's been perpetrated upon us, is this grand deception. And I realize I get ridiculed an awful lot because of the playing devil's advocate on this show.
I never defend the devil.
But I do it to perpetrate conversations on truth. I mean, if we all agreed with each other, we'd have nothing to talk about. We only have something to talk about if somebody's arguing against you. And so I try to perpetuate the argument so that those of you out there who are listening can grasp where truth always supersedes over the lie.
Uh-huh.
So, your insights, Paul, into the understanding of how that lie is perpetrated are definitely appreciated, and if you do manage to get those people on air, we would love to be able to talk to you afterwards, or to have them on air with us, because I think it's something that people need to know about.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a shame we covered quite a few things in the first 2 hours, and can't really repeat those things. It'd be easier just to listen to the first 2 hours of the show. But we covered quite a few different topics on the area of
Now,
mind control.
what about the mind control?
Does anybody remember exactly what we covered on that. I ended up reading this article. I posted a link on the chat room about how they've got this like silk-like thread thing they can put into your brain, and it's an interface. It's a Maggotaur interface, so it not only can alter the signals in your brain, it can also apparently interface with a remote computer. Yeah.
And even the show that I was listening to earlier today on the Freeman Radio Network from 1994, the individual who was talking, I'm going to say Jordan Maxwell.
William Cooper.
William Cooper, thank you. Was sharing a whole evidence of how people have been susceptible to these mind control identities even when they're rooms and miles away.
Yeah.
Which means that whole threat idea has to be valid to a certain extent, that there has to be a way to interface over vast stretches of the globe to be able to influence somebody to perpetrate an act that would be totally antithetical to their common experience.
Sure, remote mind control.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you know, I was saying, like, as a theory, how they could put them into your sight and hearing areas of the brain. The last sentence of that article is saying the same thing. So I seem to have caught up with them. Last sentence reads, eventually they hope to adapt the technology for retinal and cochlear implants and to treat patients with a wide variety of psychiatric and neurological diseases. So they've got the technology now, they can see through your eyes, you know, they can see what you can see, and they can hear what you can hear.
But based upon what you're reading, they're trying to present it as being an element to, once again, quote-unquote, help people with psychiatric and psychotic
exactly
diseases.
Yeah, and psychiatry is a big sham anyway. It's a big, complete rip-off, and it would take away all your money, and like you'll end up just being a vegetable, a totally mind-controlled vegetable. But yeah, like we were saying earlier, they've always got to like couch it in these nice social, friendly terms, and you know, we do it for your own good. But all these devices, they all introduced to the military first, and then to the public, and they have special commissions of people whose training is just to present it to the public in a way that it sounds acceptable, when the only purpose they have for introducing it is for military purposes, like making remote control assassins. The obvious spying advantages to that, having somebody with eyes that connected to somebody else and ears that are connected to somebody else as well. You know, just get them going into some... Yeah. Or somebody could infiltrate a base, enemy base, and, you know, even if they get shot down, after a few minutes, you still got all that footage of everything they saw and heard.
Well, think about it. We got radio-controlled RC vehicles here in the United States sometime in the mid to late 80s. And the technology, quote-unquote, continued to increase over time to the point where now when they talk about flying drones, we just accept that as being, oh, well, that's completely applicable to our experience.
Yeah.
Well, they had this technology at least a decade plus. Stradios could probably back this up because of his experience between PC and Mac, that the technology exists, you know, anywhere from 7 to 14 years before it's ever given to the regular public. So we're just conditionalized constantly, I think, to believe that these sudden new technologies are these great advancements, while we negate and fail to recognize and realize that they have been subtly implanted into our brains as being a necessitation, and that it isn't suddenly an extension of what we have experienced as the public, but it's just the final telling us as a public what they're willing to declassify.
Yeah.
And
technology, the technology we get is generations old.
Sure. Sure, of course. And, that's why they talk about, well, UFOs can't be real because there's no way that anything ever existed, blah, 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 blah. And then they declassify information 30 years later, and people start going, well, maybe it's possible. And then they classify more information in another 10 years. And a huger group of people go, okay, well, then we agree that maybe it's even more possible. And it's just a perpetuation.
Yeah. A UFO is just an unidentified flying object, and, just means it's unclassified. And all that means...
they fly all around my backyard. I think they're bats, but they're moving too fast. They're
KFOs, the known flying objects?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. All it means is that they haven't told the public what they are. By unidentified, it just means they're not identifying them to the public. So, I mean, they'd know them as FOs, like flying objects.
Well, right. A UFO doesn't mean extraterrestrial, but that's what we've been conditionalized once again to believe. So when somebody says, I saw a UFO, they're like, ooh, aliens.
Must be space aliens. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's most likely to be a bunch of scientists testing out the equipment or whatever, or just have, like, joyriding or whatever.
Hey, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Well, folks, we have come to the top of the hour. It's 4 o'clock. We appreciate you being with us on American Freeman on the Freeman Radio Network. My name is Don. I've been joined today, as always, by Evstratios and Maggot. I appreciate both of you being with us. David Ray has been in and out with us. We appreciate him being here. And Paul from Iconoclast Radio has been one of our guests. We want to thank him for being with us as well. We want to thank you all for joining us. You can always find our archives on worldofreemansociety.org, and you may even catch more of our conversation after we're off air. You folks have a great day, and God bless all of you.
Responsible party. Striking past Team Rays. I'll take this off air.